The world is consumed by chaos and devastation as the fires of destruction spread everywhere. Amidst the chaos, there is a man named Yu-hyun, who seems to be breathing his last breath in this apocalypse. He coughs out blood and recalls the words of his mother. She had told him that no matter how hard this life gets, he should dream big. She used to say that if he keeps heading towards his dream, he would eventually wake up one day as the protagonist of his own life. Yu-hyun believed her, but now he admits that it was a foolish decision and a naive dream. His body is battered and broken. He looks up and asks the sky if this is where he dies. A look at his body shows that he has more than one fatal wound. There is also an injury caused by the cursed demonic spear. Unfortunately, it cannot be healed by potions or healing. There is one ray of hope that can save him right now, and that is an elixir. The only bad news is that he doesn't have any, and the person who does is not a decent human being. Approaching footsteps force Yu-hyun to look up, and it's not the sight that he wishes was his last. A group of individuals emerges. Because of how hard their fit goes, it begs the question, how is there not a spot of blood on them, and not a single scratch on their faces? The leader, Choi Do-yoon, arrogantly looks down at Yu-hyun, as if he's disappointed. He tells him that he could have easily defeated the enemy even if he hadn't intervened. It slowly becomes obvious why Yu-hyun dislikes this squad. He is so annoyed that he starts laughing. When Do-yoon asks him what he's finding funny in his last moments, Yu-hyun responds that Do-yoon always says what he expects him to say. Yu-hyun admits that he has put in his blood, sweat, and tears to get to this place. It has always been about survival for him, and for this purpose, he was even willing to team up with the psychopath Do-yoon. But never would he have imagined that he would die saving Do-yoon. The day has been saved and all the people around him have started to celebrate, but this is not the case for Yu-hyun. He asks Do-yoon if he has an elixir, and the latter immediately responds that he does. After a short pause, Yu-hyun asks if he's really not going to use it on him to prevent his death. Do-yoon holds the elixir in his hand and stares at it, while claiming that its value is astronomical, so logically he is saving it for himself. As if saying that hadn't dealt enough emotional damage, he adds that Yu-hyun is not someone valuable enough for him to use it on. This causes Yu-hyun to start laughing hysterically. He suddenly stops and looks up with a grim face, while claiming that the way this world works is messed up. The divine spirits in this realm are higher beings of the heavens. They watch humans struggle as entertainment. Even as of now, some of them are wondering if Yu-hyun is really going to die. Some even say that it doesn't really matter if he dies. Yu-hyun believes that it is unfair how the divine spirits give the human trials and rewards, but are also sometimes biased. He thinks that they have found Do-yoon's cruel traits very entertaining and don't care about a minion like him. A thought crosses his mind that no one has ever cared about him in the first place. He snaps and starts cussing at everyone. He cusses at the world, the divine spirits, Do-yoon, and the girls around him. It's hilarious how the red-haired girl looks offended and says that Yu-hyun is being too harsh. POV. Your group and you are watching a man die and state that you have no intention of helping him. Do-yoon asks Yu-hyun why he intervened in the fight when his job was just to provide the intel and watch the fights. Yu-hyun smiles and admits that he was just tired of leeching off of him and fed up with his life in general. When Yu-hyun claims that he had just reached his limit, a blinding light shines from the sky. It is a creature called a teller. They are intermediators and onlookers who guide humanity to their end and sell them over to the divine spirits. The teller tells Yu-hyun that he has done very well with the survival fighting. Deep down, Yu-hyun knows that he finds this amusing, and they are like that no matter how many humans die. The teller informs him that everyone is looking forward to his next trial and he should do his best. Yu-hyun tells Do-yoon to leave with his minions, which obviously offends the red-haired girl again. Do-yoon stays in his place and stares at Yu-hyun, making the latter question if he is suddenly sad about him dying and is going to use the elixir. Do-yoon takes one last look and then turns away. As soon as he does that, Yu-hyun feels an excruciating pain in his body, and blood flows out as if someone has left the faucet open. The last thing that he can think of is that in the end, he failed to become a protagonist. He believes that in the world and in his own life, he was nothing more than a side character who had no choice but to follow the bright spotlight of the main character. As all of his organs stop working, he asks himself what he was living for all this time. He had hoped that there would be a paradise at the end of this life. He promises himself that if he gets another chance at life to right this regret, then he would climb higher than everybody else. So much higher that he wouldn't have to envy anyone else. He just wants to live a life where he can be proud of himself. Darkness overtakes and he loses consciousness. May Yu-hyun rest in peace. Well, it looks like his death is short-lived. He opens his eyes and finds himself in a strange place, surrounded by a bunch of walking marshmallows. The problem is that he is also one of them. His own human body is gone. He looks around and finds a teller. This one looks a little different from the ones that oversaw the end of humanity though. The creature informs the white squishy things about their situation. They are all former humans who have died, and will now be working as tellers of the Celestial Body Incorporated. They are here to prove their skills. Just when Yu-Hyun thought that the trials were over, there's already another one. Suddenly, a portal appears, and sends Yu-Hyun and his fellow reincarnations into space. System activates Genesis's blessings, and a protective orb appears around Yu-Hyun and the others. That's when a menu window explains his mission. He is now a teller. Teller is a being that presents the divine spirits with stories. In order to do that, he needs to choose the one whom he will show to the divine spirits. The goal is to first enter into a contract, and the time limit is 1 hour. In case of success, there can be promotion as an official employee, and in case of failure, an official death. As if they aren't already dead. Yu-Hyun looks out the orb and realizes that his destination is Earth. Shockingly, the Earth isn't on the verge of utter destruction and apocalypse. The Earth that he recalls was a red ball of lava. This can only mean one thing. Yu-Hyun has been reincarnated as a teller and has been sent to the past. He is not sure what is happening and why, but the timer on the system window warns him that he must focus on the mission as of now. He knows that if they are in the past, then this must be before Earth was destroyed and the collectors were alive. Even before the end of the Earth, life on this planet was far from normal. Strange portals appeared all over the place, and monsters came out of them. Collectors were the people who hunted down these monsters. Yu-Hyun's job is to pick one of the collectors who didn't have a contract yet. Collectors need to enter a contract with a teller in order to receive sponsorship from a divine spirit to earn points. Points are necessary for collectors to become stronger, meaning that any collector is desperate for a contract with a teller. It's a win-win relationship, so Yu-Hyun thinks that it's far too easy of a mission. He reads that his destination is South Korea. He tries to accept the mission by tapping on the screen, but he realizes that his arm is too short and he doesn't have any fingers. He cusses at the creators and says that it is from the basics to separate at least the thumb from the rest of the hands, for example, like in mittens. Yu-Hyun misses his human form and suddenly his body starts changing. In the meanwhile, the teller looks disappointed that the subject of the trials haven't even grasped their situation yet. However, he is shocked when he looks at Yu-Hyun. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks for a newborn teller to change form, but Yu-Hyun only took 3 minutes. This sends shivers down the teller's spine, as he realizes that he might have stumbled across a gem. It's funny if you think that since it takes around 3 weeks for them to transform in their appearance, the collectors are supposed to make contracts with the white tadpoles. I can already imagine some guy walking down a street, and a white tadpole pulls up to him, proposing to him to sell his soul to the divine spirits while they are struggling to tap their own system window with their short arms. This mission was bound to fail. Not for Yu-Hyun though. He reaches Earth and enters the Collectors Association that would become ashes when the apocalypse would begin. His map tells him the location of the collectors who haven't entered a contract yet. He knows if he ends up signing a contract with a collector who is not talented or skilled, he won't be able to attract the attention of the divine spirits, which means no points. A security officer finds him suspicious and tries to send him away, but when he touches him, he receives a strong electric shock. When he realizes that the person before him is a teller, he immediately becomes more respectful and starts to apologize. Yu-Hyun is running out of time, and the problem is that he can't grab every collector he seems to interview. However, when he steps out, he realizes that there is a book floating atop of everyone's heads. They are unable to see it, and it's not the Genesis system showing them either. This means that the books are his own exclusive skill. When he reads one of the books, a wide smile crawls up on his face, and he realizes that his skill is way too OP. Time passes by until only 3 minutes are remaining. All others have found people to enter contracts with, and Yu-Hyun is the only one remaining. The teller gives up hope on him. That's when Yu-Hyun invades the house of a random, seemingly unemployed stranger, who is about to enjoy her instant noodles and decides that she is the one who wants for the mission. In the mixed world where Yu-Hyun is currently living, even abstract concepts can exist, such as myths, a hero's tale, legends, and horror stories. With a mischievous smile on his face, he wonders if the skill he has obtained is some sort of cheating. The book allows him to read not only the person's abilities, but also their past. He also notices that the books are of different colors. He has only seen bronze and silver books and is desperately looking for a gold book. The better the color of the book, the more valuable life the person has lived. The aura coming out of the book shows the person's innate abilities and potential. Yu-Hyun realizes his next step. He just has to roam around and find a person that has the most potential and a gold book. Of course, it is easier said than done. He almost gives up with 10 minutes remaining. He has the ability to teleport, but it is on cooldown. He asks someone what year it is and receives a concerned response. He concludes that it is 5 years before the end of the world. You can practically see the wheels turning inside his head as he tries to remember who is the contractor that has yet to emerge in the spotlight during this period. It should be someone who will become active within the next 6 months. Then he remembers the Miraculous Three: Saint Bang Sang, Flame Knight Quan Inbom, and Sword Empress Hang Kirim. He recalls that Bang Sang kept his identity a secret, so finding him will be impossible with how little time he has left. Quan Inbom is still in the US, and the one left is Kang Hyerim, unquestionably the strongest of the three. There was an interview saying she remained mysterious throughout the early days of her career. He uses his teleport skill with 4 minutes remaining. He spawns in a messy dorm and finds her eating instant noodles in a tracksuit. She obviously, like any other normal human, panics to see a grown man spawn in her room. She threatens him by saying that she will call the cops. He looks at her with a creepy smile because he has found the golden book. If he didn't introduce himself at this point, she probably would have started screaming for help. Luckily, he tells her that he is a teller from the Celestial Body Inc. that's been assigned to Earth and is here to make a contract with her. Her eyes immediately sparkle up, and she confesses that her abilities are bad and she can't even fight, or that's what everyone around her says. She claims that she has given up on becoming a collector and wants to become a civil servant. With only 16 seconds remaining, he tries to rizz her up and promises that he will help her in unleashing her potential. He shoves the contract in her face and tells her to quickly sign it. But of course, she loses her pen. Fortunately, with 2 seconds remaining, Yoo-hyun completes his mission and gets promoted to a full-time employee. He reads her book and is shocked to find out that she has 3 main character specializations. He asks her if she's aware of her talents and is confused when she admits that she's insecure of them because they have funny names. In short, she is completely clueless. Yoo-hyun receives a notification that he has been invited to an entrance ceremony while he will receive awards based off of his actions. He asks Hyerim what weapons she uses, and she responds that she just uses a shield because she has good strength. Yoo-hyun is frustrated because he knows that this woman will become the top swordsman in the future, and somehow she has managed to never touch a sword. He tells her that he is leaving for a while and she should exchange the shield for a sword and practice somewhere. She follows his instructions and stands in the middle of nowhere with a sword in her hand. When she swings it, she feels a weird sudden surge of energy inside her. When Yoo-hyun returns, he is taken aback to see that her form is already steady even when no one has taught her. When she notices Yoo-hyun, she panics and becomes flustered. Yoo-hyun's system window tells him to gather the things needed for the future and create his own story. The target is to create a library, and there is no time limit. He checks the works of the other tellers and is caught off guard when he sees a bombardment of negative comments from the divine spirits. He is happy that at least he has a potential collector. He opens a portal and takes her to the world of thoughts. He tells her that the genre that the divine spirits like the most is the heroic tales. From now on, her job is to become a heroic tale. They enter Avnar Mountain's kobold mines and Yoo-hyun launches his library. The divine spirits quickly enter as well and make fun of him in the comments, hoping he would fail. He tells Hyerim that she now has to fight alone, as he would be busy in showing the spirits her story. Hyerim panics and falls to the ground. As the divine spirits laugh at her, she is reminded of her bullies. This gives her the last push that she needed to overcome her fears. Kobold attacks, and with one wing, she cuts him in half, while promising herself that she will never run away ever again. Yoo-hyun smiles proudly, while Hyerim has a fierce look on her face. She receives points for killing the creature. Yoo-hyun tells her that her fight isn't over yet, and this world is full of things that will bring her joy. His library receives 15 viewers in less than an hour. Senior Associate Teller Taodon is surprised to see Yoo-hyun, a newbie, thriving and succeeding. He believes that Yoo-hyun must be using a dirty trick. He looks at Hyerim and is dumbfounded when he realizes that she isn't even wearing any protective gear. He admits that he has seen all kinds of collectors, but she is the strongest and is growing stronger every minute. The comments at Yoo-hyun's library have finally become positive. He teases his audience by saying that this isn't all, and his collector can do even more than this. She breaches the border that was built to stably bring in points for all collectors, and is disappointed that her fight has come to an end. Yoo-hyun urges her to break the border and clear the entire realm. Once she clears a mind realm, another one will appear in a different location. Normally, people hesitate to cross a border because what comes next is unpredictable. There is an unquenchable thirst to fight inside of Hyerim, and she fearlessly rushes through the borders like a true protagonist. This piques interest of all the divine spirits. Yoo-hyun realizes that these borders and lack of challenge takers made these spirits lose interest, and they started an apocalypse to try to get an interesting story. Hyerim reaches the deepest level of the mine, and Yoo-hyun tells her to take a break. She tells him that the kobolds seem to have a leader and she wants to take him down. He notices that her book has gotten brighter. He informs her that one way to clear a mind realm is by a raid. After getting a new sword from the points she earned, Hyerim heads into the enemy's den and effortlessly annihilates them. She is angry at them for ruining her previous sword. After clearing the mind, Yoo-hyun treats her to a cake. He asks her a question that catches her off guard. He asks her if she knows about Chick Jung-young, and she immediately stops munching on the cake. Yoo-hyun reveals the legendary tale of Chick Jung-young. Although he was a lower-class military officer and a civil servant, he single-handedly climbed the walls of the castle, which had been seized by the Jotrin tribe, and he slayed each and every single one of them. Despite being faced with numerous enemies from every side, he did not feel fear and took them down ruthlessly. Such was his strength that to the modern day, it is reported that he managed to surpass all human limits, and as a result was given the title of the Goryeo-era Swordmaster. Hiram, who is listening to this historic tale with wonder, is surprised that Jung-young's story is not that mainstream since it would make a great drama. Rather bashfully, Yoo-hyun explains that Jung-young's friend's name is really embarrassing, and producers would not want to make a movie mentioning it. This obviously catches Hiram's curiosity, and she pushes the teller to reveal the friend's name, but Yoo-hyun is evidently blushing, and tells her to just search it up herself. Hiram does so and immediately goes red, blaming Yoo-hyun for not warning her in the first place. I mean, he did, but okay. Hiram now realizes how strong her talent was and how she had been underestimating her potential from the very beginning. Yoo-hyun observes the collector and wonders if the Sword Empress from his era, who had always looked so confident, had been putting up an act when the girl in front of him right now obviously looks anything but self-assured. However, as a teller, it is his job to make Hiram's heroics attractive to the spirits. He grabs her hand and leads her out of the cafe with the mission that they would be working on her image. Later on in the day, Hiram has now ditched her old tracksuit, which was stained with kobold blood and entrails. Her new suit is truly a thing of beauty. A pearl white kimono with green lace on the edges. She could easily have been mistaken for someone at the Met Gala if not for the gleaming sword that she is clutching menacingly. Moreover, Yoo-hyun also lectures Hiram on being wary of what she says in front of the spirits and to not laugh too much. Yoo-hyun begins the story, and a lot more viewers join in comparison to the previous time when there were only a handful of spirits. They cannot believe their eyes as they observe the neatly dressed Hiram, who has even taken off her glasses. Points immediately begin to flood in for the girl as Yoo-hyun's choice of fashion pays off. Our protagonist is proud that his wager was correct. That wager being, after pure brute strength, looks are the second most important feature for a hero. Note to self, ditch superpowers, just get a new suit. Before sending his collector into the mind realm, he hands Hiram a few stories that he bought. Although her superhuman talent got her through with the kobolds, these new opponents would require a lot more than just brute strength. The girl takes them all in and asks Yoo-hyun how she acquired them, but the man immediately brushes off the question and moves forward with the mission. The two teleport to an abandoned maze underground, which Yoo-hyun reveals is known as the Labyrinthos, located in Crete Knossos Palace. It had proved to be a problematic quest for collectors since it had not been cleared yet, despite numerous attempts. Hiram is horrified as she catches sight of a fresh bloody corpse on the ground. But before the girl can panic, Yoo-hyun asks her to quiet down and reveals that their viewers have crossed 100. He has already identified that a few tellers are also watching the story since he has become quite popular and they want to copy him. Obviously, his goal as a teller is to increase the audience, so he's pretty satisfied at the moment. Yoo-hyun hands Hiram a spool of red thread and explains that using it to mark her path would prevent her from getting lost in the treacherous maze. A similar tactic had been used by Theseus in a myth. With this last bit of advice, Yoo-hyun teleports out of the maze, leaving the girl to complete the last mission on her own. The danger she has got herself into begins to set in. But before Hiram can have a full-out panic attack, Yoo-hyun reassures her through a digital screen that she needs to treat this as a minor mission. As long as she keeps moving forward, she will be able to deal with anything that comes in her way. Hiram observes all the divine spirits sending her points, which makes her take a huge sigh and brace herself. The collector strides into the maze, ignoring the dead bodies that line the walls of the cave. She finally discovers a room that seems to be emitting a bright light, but just as she's about to enter it, Yoo-hyun quickly gives her a loud warning. Seconds later, an enormous creature suddenly makes its appearance. A minotaur, double the size of Hiram, with its body stained of human blood. It is pretty obvious that this is the beast that has been slaughtering the collectors who had tried to clear the maze. The minotaur lets out a terrifying roar, which does not scare Hiram in the slightest. She unsheaths her sword and strikes the mythical beast, drawing first blood. This gives her a lot of confidence as a smirk comes to her lips and she delivers a corny one-liner about serving cowhead soup. All the watching spirits begin to wonder what this strange delicacy is, and Yoo-hyun can only hold his head in his hands, making a mental note to work on her battle cry next. We can feel that secondhand embarrassment. Yoo-hyun warns Hiram that the Minotaur is a much stronger foe than the Kobold. Its tough skin will make it almost impossible to defeat it in one go, so she should try to tire it out and then finish it off with a final blow. However, the girl chooses to ignore her teller and continues exchanging blows with the Minotaurus. While the fight rages on, her sword suddenly begins to glow, which amazes Yu-hyun as he realizes that she has already learned the sword aura. Talk about a fast learner. Sword aura is a special skill that only fighters who have reached a certain level can use. It allows the individual to infuse their weapon with their own chi, thus greatly enhancing their abilities. While most characters depend on their story to acquire the technique, such is Hiram's potential that she was able to develop it all on her own. The Minotaur launches itself at the girl, but Hiram is ready. With a single strike of her glowing sword, she pierces the thick skin of the creature and sends it to its eternal abode. Even Yu-hyun, who had also seen pretty much everything in his previous life, is awestruck at this amazing show of talent. The Minotaur's bloody corpse is evident among all the rubble, as Hiram wipes away the sweat from her face and observes all the points being donated by the watching divine spirits with a smile of relief. Not only had she managed to defeat the beast, Yu-hyun realizes that the number of their subscribers has also just about doubled as well. His life seems to be changing right before his eyes. Hiram suddenly addresses him and mentions how, although she had slain the Minotaur, the mind realm is still not cleared. Yu-hyun teleports himself to the maze and explains that her mission is not over yet. During his previous life, many collectors had killed the beast, but gave up when the mind realm did not clear. This was because they had not realized that the hidden task of the labyrinth is to escape it as well. This seems simple enough to Hiram, who could just follow the thread she'd attached to the entrance. However, Yu-hyun reveals that she has to escape from the exit, which is located on the ceiling of the labyrinth. After a while, he discloses the history of this domain. The creator of this maze is none other than the well-known Daedalus. A mad genius, he was employed by King Minos to create a labyrinth that would make it impossible for anyone trapped inside to escape. However, when Theseus managed to free himself, Minos was enraged and imprisoned Daedalus and his son Icarus in his own creation. This did not stop the inventor, who came up with a brilliant idea once again. Yu-hyun picks up a feather from the ground where lots of them are littered and asks Hiram if she has figured out how Daedalus reached the exit on the ceiling with his son. A light bulb flashes over the girl's head as she nods her head in the affirmative and begins collecting the feathers. Once her arms are full, she drops them once again, but they begin to shine instead, and suddenly 2 wings sprout from Hiram's back, signaling that she has unlocked a rare ability known as Icarus's wings, which would allow her to fly. With this, the mental realm known as the Labyrinthos' maze has finally been cleared after years of unsuccessful attempts. Hiram receives 4,000 points for her feat, as well as the various donations received from the divine spirits over the course of the story. Back in her apartment, Hiram is barely recognizable as the shy and hesitant girl Yu-hyun had only met a few days ago. Her face is evidently glowing as she boasts about her achievements to Yu-hyun, who is not used to this new side. He becomes even more uncomfortable as she begins to flirt with him and tries to change the subject by bringing up the association. He tells her to visit the Collectors Association and update her class ranking, since it would allow her to receive more points from the divine spirits. At the very mention of money, Hiram's face lights up and she flies right out of the window, heading towards the association building. The frustrated figure of Yu-hyun follows close behind, since he is worried that if he is not present by her side, someone might attempt to take advantage of her. Bro is truly going out of his way to fulfill his duties as teller. At the association, onlookers are shocked when they first catch sight of Hiram. Her unorthodox choice of clothing and gorgeous looks make her an instant spectacle, and the girl seems to be enjoying all the attention. Yu-hyun notices this and whispers to her to not even attempt to show off her wings, to which the girl replies that the thought had not even crossed her mind. At the counter, Yu-hyun informs the receptionist that they are here to collect the reward for clearing 2 mental realms. Right by his side, Hiram has already zoned out, thinking about what food she will order with her winnings. The people around the two are shocked even further when they hear that the girl cleared the 2 mental realms. Obviously, with surprise comes envy, as comments begin to get thrown around about her obnoxious attitude and that they would never survive much longer if they thought so highly of themselves. Even Hiram cannot help overhear these rude remarks. The receptionist inquires if she had anyone accompanying her during the missions, to which Yu-hyun replies that she had completed them all by herself, and that her current class rank is 9. This new information creates even further chaos in the room, as it is unheard of for such a low-class character to complete a single mental realm, let alone 2. The receptionist asks the 2 to take a seat while he summons someone of authority to clear out their issue. Rumors of Hiram possibly being a liar ring around the room as Yu-hyun quietly observes her and wonders how she's taking the criticism. He is pulled out of his thoughts by the appearance of an extremely buff man, who begins to interrogate Hiram. He first calls her a scammer and then questions the credibility of her story. The girl does not react and simply ignores these taunts, which seem to trigger Mr. All Brawn No Brains even more, as he seems to be getting hyped up. Yoo-hyun steps in and asks the man to back off. However, he doesn't, and begins to pick a fight with Yoo-hyun as well, who is as nonchalant as ever. Not only does this piss him off further, the man then pulls his fist back and is about to punch the lights out of the teller when suddenly he gets a taste of his own medicine. With a single blow, Hyrum knocks him to the floor, rendering him unconscious. Yoo-hyun watches this with a slight smirk on his face and comments that he had warned the guy not to mess with the Sword Empress. Not gonna lie, if she was my wife, I'd clean the dishes every night. All Brawn No Brain finally regains consciousness, finding himself on the cold hard floor of the association. The last thing he remembers is stretching out his hand before he gets the lights knocked out of him. He views Hyrum, who is standing over him, with disbelief, as if he cannot even imagine such a petite woman laying a scratch on him. The guy manages to climb back to his feet and attempts to strike Hyrum, much to the horror of all the people in the building who are now watching this scene unfold. The girl is way too quick for him, grabbing his arm and with a kick to the backside forces him back to the position he just woke up on. All the onlookers are bewildered that the girl who is reportedly a Class 9 has overpowered a Class 7 with such ease. All this talk further enrages Mr. All Brawn No Brains, who begins to use the full extent of his abilities. His veins begin to pop and his muscles are visibly stretched as he tries to stand back up, but to no avail, as Hyrum has made herself at home on his back. Yoo-hyun immediately recognizes that Hyrum has mastered a technique known as the heavy-weighted body, which allows the user to utilize their aura to make their body much heavier than their opponent. This girl seems to be full of surprises, since she managed to gain this ability without any prior experience. As a result, no matter how much stronger All Brawn No Brains may appear to be, he is no match for Hyrum's skill, and is simply making a fool of himself in front of a huge audience. Security suddenly shows up and begins to clear the crowd. Yoo-hyun observes that they made their appearance way too late, which means that someone from above has ordered them to wait for the right moment. An elderly gentleman comes forward and announces himself as the person in charge and inquires the reason for such a ruckus. Yoo-hyun replies that he is the colleague of one of the people involved in the incident, but that they are not to be blamed. He explains that Hyrum had been provoked and had simply acted as a form of self-defense, when the situation seemed to be getting out of hand. To further help his case, he points out how Hyrum does not have a single scratch on her and that her expression is one of peace. The audience also second his story by mentioning how the man is the one who would start the brawl. The elderly gentleman's accusatory tone turns to a polite one as he excuses his misunderstanding. Yoo-hyun gets right to the point and asks that the rewards for Hyrum's achievements be handed over so that they can continue to be on their way. The gentleman requests our two protagonists to follow him, and as they do so, the exclamations of surprise and awe are still audible from the crowd. Yoo-hyun is proud that Hyrum's first public appearance as a collector has been successful, but prepares himself for the real test that awaits them in the association head office. Once there, Yoo-hyun places his character book over the gentleman's head, which obviously he is unable to see. The book begins to give off a bright silver light, which indicates that the man is not as strong as a gold level character, but he will still prove to be a difficult opponent. Our protagonist had deduced as much from their brief encounter, in which the man's initial reaction had been to blame them for the entire incident. But when he saw that the crowd were on their side, he changed his attitude and welcomed them to his office. Although this does not show his talent, it certainly proves that he has years of experience of dealing with such situations. He introduces himself as Choi Jung-mo, and that he is responsible for the association. He then inquires if the two were the ones who cleared out the Mind Realms. Yoo-hyun corrects him by saying that Hyrum had cleared out both of them on her own. Jung-moo's face remains expressionless as he hints at how unbelievable such a feat is, but Yoo-hyun mentions the pure talent Hyrum showcased in the waiting room against the Class 7 collector and that she has the potential to do much more. It seems to be a sequence of mind games between Jung-moo and Yoo-hyun as they speak in veiled phrases. Jung-mo asks our protagonist what he wants, to which the teller replies that he simply expects the due rewards for clearing the Mind Realms. After a bit of contemplation, Jung-mo reveals that he does not have the right to authorize any rewards, to which Yoo-hyun decides to keep his foot down. He informs the man that he was aware the association would not simply hand over the rewards after the mission. Jung-mo is visibly taken aback at this attack, more so when he's told to stop speaking in coded words and directly say what he wants. Jung-mo explains that once a mind realm has been cleared, it is the government's responsibility to set up a new one. Obviously, this takes up time, not to mention a great amount of finance. Moreover, the new Mind Realm would also claim the lives of more collectors who would attempt to clear it. As a result, the association and the collectors came to an agreement to keep the remaining Mind Realms as they were, and simply farm for points in the areas outside of the barriers. The actions of Hyrum have managed to ruin this agreement, and possibly throw the natural order of things into turmoil. Yoo-hyun expresses his discontent with this arrangement as he mentions how the Shadow Realms have been set up to tell the stories to the Divine Spirits. They serve as a worthy test for collectors, and if those with less abilities meet their end during a mission, it should be described as survival of the fittest. Jung-mo bangs his fist on the table and loudly exclaims that he is trying to keep the people safe by avoiding change. Yoo-hyun suddenly recalls the future in which the divine spirits have grown bored of humanity and send an apocalypse to take them out. This seems to be the work of the Association, who discourage the clearing of mind realms, which is a main source of entertainment for the spirits. As a result, while trying to save a few lives, the Association is actually responsible for the entire annihilation of Earth in a few years. Obviously, Yoo-hyun does not bring this up, and simply states that he and Hiram are different, and they would not stoop to the level of cowards who stay away from the mind realms. This infuriates Jung-mo, who is now on his feet and warns our protagonist from challenging the system. With a smirk, the teller reveals his library where his audience of divine spirits have been listening to this entire conversation. They are evidently pissed at this new information and make their feelings known. Jung-mo is speechless since the Association scheme has now been leaked. Talk about getting caught in 4K, huh? He thought Yoo-hyun was just a manager who was taking care of a collector. Jung-ho admits that he could have never guessed that Yoo-hyun is a teller. The latter's humble demeanor, the way he takes care of his collector, and his adept way of negotiation are contradictory to the way tellers live their lives. They look down on humans and mock them. The color drains from his face, leaving it pale and ghostly as if all the blood has rushed from his cheeks. He stares at the million system windows that have appeared before him. His gaze may dart around, avoiding direct eye contact, as he struggles to find an escape or hide his shame while sitting in Yoo-hyun's library. He wonders how long Yoo-hyun has been planning for this moment. Despite his efforts to maintain an air of arrogance, the cracks in his confidence become evident as he gives off nervous energy. A layer of sweat forms on his forehead as he realizes that the man sitting in front of him was acting based on the presumption of the situation from the very beginning. He is that guy. His shoulders hunch unintentionally, as if subconsciously attempting to shield himself from the judgment he's about to face. Sweat has started to drip on the table as if they are raindrops. He admits to himself that there is no use in coming up with an excuse right now. If the Association's image is tarnished and if bad rumors start circulating among the spirits, it could create trouble for all the collectors of the Association. Basically, in the previous timeline, the divine spirits were starved. Yoo-hyun is now pushing to give them what they've always wanted. If they get the normal amount of entertainment, they won't need to burn things down. The Earth in its current state isn't giving them enough to be worth keeping around, so they destroyed it for the burst of fun. The stories of a thriving world are more long-term enjoyable than a single ending. It's only when they get bored that they will end things. Jung-mo tells himself that he must find a way. He forces himself to think of a good solution. As he reads the comments of the spirits in the system window, he tells himself that there must be a way out of this situation. He starts having some hope, but it all comes crashing down when he looks at Yoo-hyun, who surprised himself with his proud, calm smile. His smile reflects a sense of satisfaction and inner strength. It shows that he knows something that Jung-mo doesn't, and he feels confident and proud of it. His lips curl upwards, which adds a touch of subtle amusement. It's like he's making Jung-mo dance in his head like a puppet. Just imagining such a scene drives Jung-mo insane and sabotages his ego. He tries to get up from his seat to assert dominance, but his body begins to tremble uncontrollably, as if a sudden earthquake has struck him. He falls back in his seat, causing Yoo-hyun's smile to grow even wider. He tells Jung-mo in a mocking tone that he's glad that his wits are sharp. In Yoo-hyun's inner monologue, he is surprised that Jung-mo is not as dumb as he was hoping he would be. If he had refused to back down and clung on disgracefully, Yoo-hyun would have mooched off even more from him. However, it seems like he is quite intelligent. Jung-mo has lowered his head in a humble way and is avoiding eye contact at all costs. After a minute or two passes by, he asks Yoo-hyun what he wants. The latter gives an immediate and sharp response that he has already explained enough. Jung-mo's typically smooth and self-assured voice disappears and begins to stutter. He promises Yoo-hyun that they will give him a fitting reward for clearing the mental realm. He takes a step further and says that he will also give the two an extra reward for his discourtesy. Let's rewind a little to the scene where this old geezer lied by claiming that he has no control over what and to whom the rewards are delivered. Yoo-hyun smiles and says that he doesn't have to go that far, but it would be impolite of him to refuse such an offer. Meanwhile, Hiram has maintained a single expression on her face, almost as if she's become a statue. To flex his power even more to Jung-mo, he asks the divine spirits what they feel about how the story has turned out to be. He asks them if it's okay to let Jung-mo's mistake slide just this once, because he is finally showing sincerity. The divine spirits agree and claim that they are finally feeling refreshed. Most of the spirits feel this way, but one of them disagrees and commands Yoo-hyun to destroy the arrogant association and to tear Choi Jung-mo apart. Yoo-hyun takes a deep sigh and says that in the end, it is all about the matter of taste. He decides to block that one hateful spirit, considering the atmosphere of the library that he wants for the future. Once it is over, the divine spirits start to donate points. Some donate 100, while others 300. Yoo-hyun is glad that things have worked out pretty decently. He looks at Jung-mo once again and tells him to make the deposit into the account by today. He nods his head and reassures him that it will be taken care of. Before leaving, Yoo-hyun turns around and calls out Jung-mo's name, sending shiver down the latter's spine. Yoo-hyun tells him that there is no need to be so tense. He claims that his request is not something big or anything strange. He tells Jung-mo to find someone named Choi Do-yoon and see if he still works among the collectors. Jung-mo looks surprised and says that he has never heard that name. He asks Yoo-hyun if he is sure that Do-yoon is a collector. Yoo-hyun says that he might be a collector, but he doesn't know the exact details. All he knows is that right now he is around 18 or 19 years of age. Although it hurts Yoo-hyun's pride, he describes Do-yoon as someone over 184 centimeters and with a face as handsome as a celebrity. He tells Jung-mo that he would really appreciate it if he could look into him and send him the information through the Genesis network. It is his way of telling the old man that if he wants to redeem himself, this is what he needs to do. Jung-mo asks him respectfully if he knows any other traits that Do-yoon has. Yoo-hyun spends a good 10 minutes thinking about it and then responds with a serious face by saying that the guy is rude as hell. Hyrim finally stops her mannequin challenge and admits that she was extremely nervous. She desperately put on an act because she thought she couldn't make a single mistake, or it would have all been for nothing. Yoo-hyun tells her to get a grip and relax because they will have to do this stuff often, so it's better to get used to it. She asks him if she can be herself in meetings like these, and the traumatizing flashbacks of how his last couple of days have been flash through Yoo-hyun's mind. He immediately blurts out no, when he recalls her eating habits and her bubbly personality. He reminds her that everyone was buzzing about her earlier and her acting worked like a charm. She has been deemed a charismatic and intelligent woman. Hyrim is as oblivious and clueless as always. She is shocked when he tells her that everyone is admiring how beautiful and awesome she is. Like a true mentor, he motivates her to push things through to the end and not let the hype die down. He makes her imagine the future where everyone is praising her and how famous she is. The thought of sitting on a pile of money excites Hyrin, and her mood changes entirely. She proudly tells Yoo-hyun that as a promising figure, she wants to give him a treat as a celebration. He tells her that there are other urgent matters that require their immediate attention. Before he could elaborate on what he meant, a notification from the system freezes him in his position. He almost instantly vanishes without explaining anything any further. While hovering above the city, he meets a mysterious middle-aged man. The unknown person sarcastically says that he has no idea what Argyle saw in this kid to summon him personally. He reveals that he has come here to give him the honor of joining the Pentagram Division. He introduces himself as his senior, Jin Poon. After a momentary pause, Yoo-hyun asks the man what he wants, as if he didn't dictate the purpose 2 seconds ago. This causes Jin Poon to lose his cool and lash out in anger. Yoo-hyun rolls his eyes and claims that he doesn't want to join the Pentagon Division. He calls him out for acting all high and mighty while relying solely on his authority and position. Jin Poon is confused and wonders if Yoo-hyun is acting this way because he has already joined the division. It's almost as if Yoo-hyun could read his mind. He reassures him that he is not a member of any organization yet, and he tells Jin Poon to act like a senior if he wants to be treated like one. He mocks him, while saying that he isn't even an assistant manager yet, but a mere employee because Celestial Body Inc. decides the seniority solely based on performance and position. He asks Jin Poon if he assumed that a newcomer would cower if he picked on him. He says that he would never join the same organization as a man who uses his position to pick on others. With the snap of his finger, he vanishes and appears in front of Hyrin again. She asks him what matter requires their attention, and he states that it is time that they appoint a manager for her. Hyrin and Yoo-hyun roam around the city in search of a particular person. They arrive at Baekhwa Management and a woman opens the door. One look at her sends Yoo-hyun on a trip down a haunting memory lane. He recalls getting told that it was too late no matter what he did. He won't be able to mend the relationship that was broken. He was told that it might be fine for a while, but sooner or later there will be problems again. A mysterious figure says in the flashback that he should stay away from a person like that who has lost all humanity. A man is seen choking a girl, the same one who just opened the door to death. As Yoo-hyun watches in horror, the man tells him that he has brought a good proposition for him. Back in the present, Yoo-hyun has started to breathe heavily. He is trembling and sweating with widened eyes. We don't know who this girl is, but she sure means a lot to him, and he lost her in the previous timeline. He tries to regain his composure and admits that she has a different air about her, but she just looks like she used to. She invites them in and introduces herself as CEO of Baekwha Management, Baek Soo-yeon. She asks if they want to join. Yoo-hyun corrects her and says that only Hyerin is here to join. Baek becomes starry-eyed when he lays eyes on the cool and chic-looking girl. However, she quickly changes her mind when Hyerin opens her mouth and starts being her clumsy self. Baek quickly guesses that Yoo-hyun is a teller, which even surprises him because even an intelligent woman like Jung-mo couldn't guess it. Baek claims that it can't be told at a glance, but if you look closely, there is an aura around Yoo-hyun that makes it look like he's not a part of this world. While she is currently the CEO of a small company, later on after the end of the world has started, she will become the leader of the Baekwha squad, who will lead many people. During the time when everything was decided by strength, she used her impeccable decision-making, outlook, and charisma to become the captain. She apologizes to Yoo-hyun for being too direct, and he shrugs the matter off before officially introducing himself as teller of the Celestial Body Inc. Her face lights up with a beaming smile, and mentally jumps up and down with enthusiasm when she realizes that a teller and a collector have visited her small company. Hyerin and Baek quickly kickstart their friendship and start talking about their life stories. Yoo-hyun looks at them and smiles warmly with a slight blush on his face. After a while, she asks Baek to come up with a contract, and her eyes widen with anticipation. She says that they should discuss their conditions, and Yoo-hyun tells Hyerin to take the lead as she is the main character of this contract. A few moments later, while Baek is dealing with the paperwork, Hyerin asks her what a manager usually does. She responds that, first and foremost, they provide support to make sure the collector can focus on their work. Their line of work entails the managing of a schedule, food intake, coordinating and scheduling interviews. Hyerin asks her if she has other employees to help her with this much, and Baek proudly announces that she can handle everything all by herself. She reveals that she used to work with a pretty well-known clan before she started this office. Nobody asked, but she started stating her qualifications like having a driver's license, a forklift certification, and the fact that she can weld. Yoo-hyun takes a deep breath and reassures her that he will be the one to pick out the mind realms, gather other characters, and schedule issues, so there isn't much that she has to deal with. Baek asks them if there is anything she can help with right now, and Yoo-hyun tells her that they don't need her services right away because Hyerin has yet to have her name recognized. They bid each other farewell. Before he leaves, Baek notices that he's looking a bit gloomy. He hesitates at first and then eventually asks her what her dream is. This question triggers yet another flashback in which Yoo-hyun asked Baek what she wanted to achieve as the squad captain and what she will do once the peace of the world is restored. She responded that she didn't have a good life even before the end, but if there was something that she had always wanted, it was to make a lot of money. In the present timeline, Baek gives the same response. For some reason, Yoo-hyun looks relieved, as if he wanted to confirm that she is the Baek he knows. On their journey back, Hyerin is excited about making a new friend. She tells Yoo-hyun that it feels like she and Baek have been friends for a long time. This statement reminds Yoo-hyun of the old times when these two used to bicker, but he doesn't say anything. Meanwhile, Jin-poong is still raging over how badly he was humiliated. He wants revenge, but the only problem is that Yoo-hyun is being protected by Genesis's blessing. After absolutely exhausting his brain cells, he smirks as he comes up with a mischievous strategy. 1 week passes by. Yoo-hyun and Hyerin are standing in a crowd and everyone is staring at her, wondering if she is the one who has been trending lately. She has already cleared 4 mind realms and has become a hot topic. It is revealed from the whispers of the people that she has become a Class 7 within her first week of debut. A lot of people have gathered for the upcoming mind realm, which shows the difficulty level this time. Yoo-hyun confirms that the mind realm that is opening this time is a really special one. Unlike other mind realms, you can only enter it once every 3 months. Also, you won't ever be able to enter it again if you were to fail. She asks him why he chose such a dangerous place this time, and he responds that just like her, he wants to be successful as well. He might be a teller, but his goals aren't any different from hers. He wants to succeed and climb to a position higher than herself. As we recall, his last words were to become a main character, who is so high that no one can look down on him. If in this life he can't be a main character, he would rather build that main character, which is Hyerin. He reminds her that a half-assed desire only holds one back. If she really wants something, she shouldn't give up even if her bones break and her flesh is shredded. He asks her if she has the confidence to go to such lengths, and Hyerin is a little hesitant to respond. That's when an announcement starts to echo the place that a mind realm is opening. Yoo-hyun continues and tells her that he doesn't want an answer right away, but she should think about the matter. The memories of the end of the world are haunting Yoo-hyun. He recalls the wars and the pain of losing his mom. He promises himself that he will never let that happen again. About a week ago, Yoo-hyun was told by a senior teller that there is one thing that he needs to be wary of before the ceremony begins. His entry ceremony was going to be in unison with the invitation ceremony of the Divine Spirits. He had been informed that there would be quite a few renowned Divine Spirits present, but they would be in different rooms. During the ceremony, Yoo-hyun stood by himself and remarked that in his previous life, he would have never imagined that a place like Celestial Inc. existed. His thoughts were interrupted by one of the marshmallows that had horns. The little guy criticized him for not enjoying the banquet like the others. After yapping and cussing a little, the guy left and Yoo-hyun wondered what all that was about. Soon, employees from other departments joined the party. Yoo-hyun decided that their main aim was to assess the performances to try and scout new recruits to their departments. Him, being an introvert and super awkward, tried to get out of that place before catching any attention. Of course, he failed miserably and was surrounded by all sides. He spotted a man dressed in all black with a creepy vibe to him. He pretended to know him and started talking to him to get out of the spotlight. After he was out of the room, he thanked the man. When he received no response, he realized that it was a cue for him to leave. The man finally spoke and revealed that he had disguised himself so that no teller would see him. He claimed that he had no intention to hurt him, yet he wanted to know if he was still able to see him. Yoo-hyun realizes the danger and admits that he only saw a black book floating. When he focused on it, the man appeared. Both of them realize that they have special abilities. Yoo-hyun can see floating books, and this mysterious man can disguise himself. That man told him that if Yoo-hyun correctly guessed his identity, he would reward him accordingly. Yoo-hyun rolls his eyes and grabs the man's book to read his life story. He was shocked when he realized that he couldn't open it. He put two and two together and came to the conclusion that the guy was a divine spirit. He recalled the 5 largest divine forces. Given the ominous energy, the creepy book, and 3-headed snake, he concluded that the man was Pandemonium's, the highest ranked force, first generation divine spirit. Satan himself. Yoo-hyun took a step back as precaution. Satan started to laugh, and as a reward, he promised to sponsor his library. That day, the mysterious figure who was standing in front of Yoo-hyun claimed to be Satan. He was tall and had a strong presence that commanded attention. With an intense gaze full of hidden stories and emotions, he claimed that he will become a reliable sponsor for Yoo-hyun's library. Yoo-hyun was caught in a dilemma. Does he want Satan's sponsorship? Of course he does. To get a sponsorship offer from such a high-ranking divine spirit is something he never imagined. He was grateful to get even one mid-level 3rd-generation divine spirit. He knew that this could be an opportunity of a lifetime, an ultimate opportunity that wouldn't come again. All he had to do was hold the hand that was reaching out for him. However, sweat started forming on his forehead and trickled down his face. His body language had conveyed nervousness as he extended his arm out but then stopped suddenly. He asked himself if what he was doing was right. After giving it a thought, he apologized and declined the offer. Satan was caught off guard and asked Yoo-hyun why he wanted to reject the offer. Yoo-hyun cleared his throat and admitted that Satan's sponsorship would greatly benefit the library, but then he will lose his freedom over the library. In the worst case scenario, he will receive the hostility of the divine spirits from Eden for getting sponsorship from Satan. Satan responded that he understood where Yoo-hyun was coming from, but still, the benefits he would receive would far outweigh the damages. After a momentary pause, Yoo-hyun claimed that this wasn't enough for him. At that point, it looked like Satan desperately wanted Yoo-hyun to agree to the offer, and Yoo-hyun knew that. Yoo-hyun elaborated that there was no doubt that Pandemonium's divine spirits were incredible, especially Satan, who was one of the 7 executives. He repeated that he was eager to work with him, but the moment they worked together, he would only have stories from the limited environment of Pandemonium. His main issue was that he would lose the authority of his library to his sponsor. This went against his belief in the endless possibilities and stories that he could show in his library in the future. He made a promise to himself in the past, to climb so high that no one could look down on him. There is no way he would work under someone in this life. He politely refused Satan's offer with a quiver in his voice. Deep down, he knew that the path forward could only be his, and he was determined. But he also couldn't ignore that the entity he was talking to was none other than the fallen angel. He hoped that he would be wise enough to understand, but instead give a sensible response. Yoo-hyun was met with laughter. Satan's laughter was continuous and echoed through the air. He was visibly amused by the fact that Yoo-hyun had bigger ambitions than even having the entire Pandemonium for his library. Yoo-hyun gulped with anxiety, not sure of what to make of Satan's remarks. The latter assured him that he meant that as a compliment. He didn't know Yoo-hyun would be thinking that far ahead into the future. He admitted that it was true that he would obtain ownership of the library as soon as he would sponsor it, which meant that Yoo-hyun would have to give up his own potential and follow Satan's lead. Satan claims that he was impressed that Yoo-hyun chose to walk on the difficult path and left the easy path. Although it was foolish, that exact foolishness caught his attention. He decided to end the conversation there, as he was not ambitious enough to force his demands on someone who didn't want it. Yoo-hyun teased him a bit by asking if he was going to give up now, and Satan put his hands in his pockets and replied with a smirk that this was making him more greedy. He admitted that he wanted to forcefully acquire Yoo-hyun, and that statement sent chills down the latter's spine. Yoo-hyun watched Satan in horror as the latter asked him once more if he really didn't want his sponsorship. He felt as if he had been gripped by fear and was being toyed by the evil spirits. Satan licked his lips as if he was staring at his delicious dinner. Yoo-hyun snapped himself out of it and regained his composure. He stood his ground and repeated that he wanted the donations of the divine spirits out of their own will without a deal like this. Satan smiled and stated that if any other teller had said this, he would have punished him for being too arrogant. He turned around and walked away from Yoo-hyun, while saying that it would be bad for his image if he walked out empty-handed. Since Yoo-hyun won the bet, there was going to be a reward for him. Satan claimed that although he couldn't reward him right now, he would soon give him a gift with his name on it. His parting words to Yoo-hyun were that he was truly happy to meet him and would visit his library soon. As the man disappeared through the portal, Yoo-hyun finally caught a breath of relief. He checked his watch to see how much time had passed. Satan's presence had overwhelmed him to the point that he lost perception of time. Yoo-hyun ran away from the place so that the tellers wouldn't find him again. He hid in the library and started reading books to kill time. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching him, so he turned to meet the stranger. However, he was blinded by dazzling light. This was coming out of this mysterious individual's book. The elderly man stood tall, giving out an aura of strength and wisdom. His white beard reached his chest, and his posture remained upright and resolute. He broke the silence by stating that it was strange to have a guest in this place. Yoo-hyun hadn't even looked at the person because he was too distracted by the book of such incredible light and size. He wondered how valuable the story within it must be. He was itching to just grab it and start reading it, when the old man asked him about his identity and revealed that most people don't come here. Yoo-hyun responded nervously that he was just a new worker in story writing. The old man scratched his beard and laughed. He apologized for being rude and complimented him by saying that his appearance was so neat and complete that he didn't realize that Yoo-hyun was new. The man quickly realized that this guy was the rumored person and introduced himself as the manager of the place. Yoo-hyun asked him if he worked there, and the man replied that all the departments gave up on organizing this place, but now that he is retired, he volunteered to manage it. Yoo-hyun looked back at the book again and wondered how this person had retired. He knew for a fact that the person in front of him had an unusual past. The man asked Yoo-hyun why he wasn't at the initiation ceremony. Yoo-hyun responded that although the participation was mandatory, what everyone else does after attending it is entirely up to them. He also admitted that everyone was holding on to him and annoyingly told him to join the department, so he ran away. The old man revealed that this happened a lot to him in his youth as well, and asked Yoo-hyun if the path without allegiance didn't frighten him. Yoo-hyun claimed that it didn't frighten him, and he planned to keep it that way. He admitted that he had said he wasn't afraid he'd be lying, but his goal was more important. The old man gave a warm smile and informed Yoo-hyun that he had a longing. Tellers aren't born biologically, but created. They are born with some level of abilities, but they are a blank slate when it comes to what they will do and what they want to do. As far as what they have to do is concerned, the system guides them or the high-ranking senior tells them. According to the man's beliefs, a path that someone walks because someone orders them and not because they want to is fundamentally wrong. The elderly man also informed him that, regrettably, most tellers don't have a longing. Basically, they're like NPCs. Tellers like Yoo-hyun are rare, as they don't get swayed by others' words and have a clear goal inside their minds. The man then told him to follow him if he wanted to see something fun. They entered a majestic hall that stores all of the stories that have the most influence. In these stories, there were the lives of everyone. Yoo-hyun's excitement was visible on his face. Unfortunately, the hallway came to an abrupt end, and the old man revealed that 30 years ago, life was completely cut off. The reason he brought him here was because he wanted someone to remember this place long after he was dead so that it wouldn't be forgotten forever. The other tellers only care about earning points and repeating the same stories. Their stories have become a cheesy product of an older generation. Yoo-hyun wondered if Choi Do-yoon made it to this hall after defeating the trial. He clenched his fist as he admitted to himself that he wanted to be here too. As he received the notification from the system window that the initiation ceremony would end in 10 seconds, he thanked the old man for this good experience and finally asked him for his name. The man chuckled and responded that if Yoo-hyun visits this place again, he would reveal his identity. They bid farewell as the ceremony ended, and Yoo-hyun was teleported away. In the chaos and destruction, Hyram stands frozen, completely overwhelmed by the scene unfolding before her. Her face pales, and her eyes grow large with a mix of disbelief and fear. The deafening sounds of gunfire and explosions echo in her ears, drowning out all other noise. The air is thick with tension and the acrid smell of smoke and burning debris. She takes in the horrors of war. Her body trembles uncontrollably. Someone calls out her name to help her stay focused. She asks Yoo-hyun if she's witnessing a war. Yoo-hyun informs her that this is the siege that signaled the end of the medieval era and started the current era. The final war in which over 150,000 Ottoman troops fought, ending the Eastern Roman Empire. It's the Siege of Constantinopolis. The Roman Empire was destroyed when defeated in this war by the Ottomans. Hyram is currently on the Roman Empire's side, defending the castle. In Yoo-hyun's previous life, King Hyram awakened her skills in this moment for the first time, and earned the title Sword Empress. As Yoo-hyun monitors her, he notices that her voice is shaking. She asks him if they can win this, and he admits that he thought that it would be easy when he saw over 50 collectors entering the realm. But now he knows that he was wrong. Even 500 wouldn't be enough since the defense force is only 7,000, while the enemy force is 150,000. And that's just the attacking force. If you count the support force, they will number around 300,000. Hyram asks again if they have any chance here and why have all the collectors decided to come to this place. Yoo-hyun reveals that currently over 2,000 divine spirits are watching this place. It is not to show off the library, but it is a chance of a lifetime for many to show off what they got in front of the spirits. The spirits have started to become impatient and furious. Yoo-hyun tells Hyram that the divine spirits of other libraries are also watching with interest. So clearing this mind realm isn't everyone's goal, but they are here for their own benefits. Tellers promote their library to the divine beings of other libraries, growing their library as a result. However, if you aren't able to show off your worth, you will also lose your divine spirit to the other libraries. Yoo-hyun tells Hyram that they will be aiming to clear this mind realm, and will pull out if it seems dangerous. As Hyram's confidence starts to shake, Yoo-hyun reminds her that they must show them that they are willing to try. He recalls that in the previous timeline, the Sword Empress wasn't able to clear this place before. Even though she did last the longest, in the end she failed. However, it is not an exaggeration to say that the current Hyram has caught up to the past Sword Empress. So from Yoo-hyun's perspective, it is worth giving it a shot. One of the collectors approaches Hyram and asks her if she's planning on acting alone or if she wants to join them. His logic is that it will be good to show off together and split the rewards. Hyram doesn't respond but looks the other way, as if she is ignoring him, and the girl who is clinging to him as if her life depends on him. They assume that she must be being cocky after clearing some mind realms by herself. Hyram knows that they are acting all righteous when it is obvious that they're trying to make use of her. However, she chooses not to react and keeps her cool like Yoo-hyun would have wanted. The illusionary being that is in charge of the defense for the siege welcomes all the mercenaries. He introduces himself as Konstantinos Dragasis Peliagolos, who seems to be the rightful emperor of Rome. Hyram thinks about how this person who is just an illusion seems so real. Her thoughts are interrupted when the notification reads out that the siege has come, and they are commanded to defend the castle and lead this battle to victory. They are given only one chance. The arrogant duo from earlier confidently jump on the battlefield and launch attacks everywhere. After a few minutes pass by, they become confused as to why no system notification is popping up. The smoke clears down and they notice that the army is endless. Most of the mercenaries go all out from the start and quickly run out of stamina. They beg the divine spirits not to give up on them just yet, as they can still go on. On the other hand, Hyram is doing fine. Yoo-hyun visits the gathering hub for other libraries and finds out that most of the other collectors are frustrated. The divine spirits decide to enter the library of the Sword Empress and her viewers increase to 500. The tide of the war has started to shift and everyone has started to get tired. Even Hyram has slowed down significantly. Yoo-hyun wonders if there comes a point when she is backed against a wall and what choice she will make. As he thinks that, the castle walls fall down. It's the Orban cannon. Even in history, cannons were brought by the Ottoman Empire to take down the castle walls. The Roman army commands the mercenaries to stop them in their tracks and not let them enter. Meanwhile, the mercenaries realize that they will end up dying at this rate. Hyram believes that there is still hope if the collectors all work together. They might be able to push them back and set up a defensive perimeter. However, before she can say anything, everyone announces that they're giving up and never intend to put their life on the line in the first place. One of them walks up to Hyram and tells her that since she's a newbie, she doesn't understand that this is the kind of place where everyone is found to fail. You just have to hold out as long as you can before running away. Hiram asks him what about the soldiers that are defending this place. She is told that those people are made up illusions and their deaths are insignificant. She is frustrated with how easily everyone is giving up. Everyone became a collector with their own goals in mind. They all rush towards the portal because their resolve to fight in the mind realms isn't strong enough. As Hiram stands alone in the middle of fallen comrades and wounded soldiers, she wonders if she should leave as well or if she should stand her ground. From the point of view of Konstantinos, he already knew that the mercenaries would leave them all alone to die and run away to their actual world. He reveals that he has been stuck in this painful endless loop forever, where he watches his men get mercilessly butchered and his homeland getting captured by the enemy. Despite that, because of how the system is designed, he cannot stop fighting. He believes that he is in a world where the end has already been decided. He knows that he isn't a real person, but he still has a conscience and can't just stand and watch his people die. He claims that if this is the prophesized fate, then he will do his best to fight against fate and won't give up no matter how many times he dies. As the enemy marches towards him to decapitate him, Hiram stands between them. They look at her in shock and ask her why she hasn't run away, even when everyone knows that they can't turn the tables on this war anymore. Hiram turns toward him and says that she doesn't want him to die in vain. The entire army is moved by her courage. Hiram is surprised when she finds out that he remembers everything from every timeline. The general lowers his head and states that he is just the remnants of someone who lived long ago. Hiram corrects him by saying that they are all more than that, and she considers them as living people. She says that this is why she decided to help them and stay back. The general admits that after hearing that he is considered a real person by someone, something deep within his heart has started burning, and he has become speechless from the emotions. It is neither rage nor sadness. He thanks Hiram as he realizes that he is feeling joy. Realizing that the lives that they want to protect are considered valuable and real makes their heart content. As they are busy talking, the enemy uses the opening as an opportunity to attack and slay. The general asks Hiram to stall some time for them so that they can set up a defense formation and give the enemy a harder time. They refer to Hiram as their savior. The entire situation has put Yoo-hyun on the edge of his seat. He notices as Hiram's book starts turning silver. This means that she's caught up to herself in her past life. Her viewers have increased to 800, and she has completely unlocked her special trait, Goryo Age's Swordsmaster. Her sealed special trait of Body Sword Union has been partially unlocked. Meanwhile, Yoo-hyun is told by others that her collector has started to struggle and should give up. Some make fun of her for acting all high and mighty just to lose in the end. For the first time, Yoo-hyun loses his cool composure and calls everyone in the room a bunch of names for having the audacity to look down on Hiram when they are all just garbage who tucked their tails and ran away. As time passes by, the last line of defense starts to fall. Hiram is still unstoppable. She herself can understand why she refuses to give up, even after knowing that if she dies here, it's over for her. All she knows is that the moment she gives up and runs away, she will lose something important to her. She receives an injury to her chest and collapses to the ground. The divine spirits start trash-talking and Yoo-hyun begins to panic. However, suddenly, everyone falls silent, and Yoo-hyun notices that Satan has joined the library. Things aren't looking that bright for Yoo-hyun. He thought Hiram would be able to defeat all those warriors and change her destiny, but death is knocking on her door by the looks of it. The chat windows are flooding all around the library, and he can't keep blocking each and everyone's chat. He is about to lose his mind when all of a sudden, time freezes. The chat stops popping up around him, and the divine spirits aren't saying anything at all either. Something smells fishy, which is when Yoo-hyun's worst nightmare enters the library. Satan himself. Satan has seen a golden opportunity and taken it by the neck. That cunning guy perfectly knows how to exploit young, entrepreneurial minds. Pun intended. He questions Yoo-hyun why there is an air of nervousness surrounding him. To this, Yoo-hyun gives a rather cheeky reply, stating the obvious that everyone's nervous. He busies himself with the proceedings around him, and this time questions Satan why he was late. Shouldn't he be at the door of the library when he opens up? Yoo-hyun really should mind himself around the devil. Satan takes his sarcasm and puns lightly and donates 1,000 TP, telling Yoo-hyun that he looks forward to seeing him turn the 10-step atmosphere around. Our protagonist, with a cunning and sly smile, gets himself ready. He isn't one to just sit around and watch, and that too without popcorn. He leaves the interrogation area and enters the mind realm. It's showtime, baby. Yoo-hyun stands before Hiram, who is down on her knees, smeared in blood and dirt. The look of a defeated warrior echoes from her face. This is not what she had intended at all. He tells her that it's all over. She doesn't have to keep fighting. Giving up seems like a better option rather than dying. Some things aren't in her hands, and she can't continue this way further. She has to step down and go back to heal. Yu-Hyun's words ring in Hiram's ears like a gong, and she screams at him. The anger and hatred is evident in her pitch. She doesn't want to give up. She knows that some things are impossible, but that doesn't mean that you just throw in the towel. Tears cascade down her eyes, the blood marks smearing her face. She starts weeping like a spoiled brat. She can't give up now, and more importantly, why would Yu-Hyun, the one person who believed in her, say such cruel things? The traumatic experience in battle, coupled by Yu-Hyun's words to give up, takes her down memory lane. She recalls how everyone looked down upon her, how they all called her hopeless and told her she should give up as a collector. Back then, she had momentarily decided to give up, but then she showed up at her door and told her that she was determined for greatness, that she can do something that others can't. Using her sword, Hiram picks herself up from the ground and with a determined look on her face, tells Yu-Hyun she isn't going to run away anymore. It isn't over until she says it's over. Yu-Hyun has nothing further to say to her. He has realized by now that all that he may say would fall on deaf ears. All he can do now is support her. By this moment, a warrior charges towards the two, calling Hiram a witch. Well, that's one way to break a romantic moment. Hiram knows that she must react fast. If she doesn't, then this would be the last few seconds that she has. But her body isn't cooperating with her. She can't move, nor can she do anything to defend herself or Yu-Hyun. She closes her eyes with pain and apologizes to him. Yu-Hyun, on the other hand, simply smiles back at her. He then switches off his Genesis blessings, and with his sword, kills the charging soldier with one slash. Now we're talking Yu-Hyun to the rescue. Satan, in another realm, watches this sight and laughs at the top of his voice. Things have started spicing up, and he is enjoying it to the fullest. Time to hear Yu-Hyun's side of the story. It seems he always desired to be the main character. Bruh, you're legit the MC of this manhwa. What more do you want? Nonetheless, back to his sob story. The one thing that he still regrets is not being able to fulfill the dream of his younger self, nor the hope that his dear mother had planted in his heart. All these hopes and dreams were smashed by the one and only Choi Do-yoon, who would roam around with girls like he's in some high school rom-com. Okay, Mr. Stud. All those harsh words only added fuel to the fire, and Yu-Hyun continued to live a depressed life working under him. However, Hiram is different. He could sense and see potential in her eyes. She held on to her desire and dreams till the very end. Even when death came knocking on her door, she didn't stop and wanted to die a fighter. An army of soldiers charged towards them. They aren't going to wait and watch while their moment goes on. Hiram doesn't like where this is going. She fears for his life, especially since he isn't protected by the blessings anymore. Yu-Hyun hits back at the warriors. He slashes them in two with his sword. He isn't going to let her take all the credit now. With more than 1,200 viewers watching the fight, Yu-Hyun needs to show them all his good side as well. This is the perfect stage for a nameless actor's debut. This makes her laugh, and she thanks him for coming to her rescue. She then leaves this for him to deal with. People say that tellers are onlookers, that they shouldn't get involved in fights or dirty situations. They must stand on the side and be protected by the blessings. However, Yu-Hyun knows there is no such rule as that. It's something that has been miscommunicated, and he's about to break down many barriers by taking part in a fight now. While fighting, he opens the Dimension shop to purchase something. He wants to change history, and to do that, he must fight. The soldiers are given orders to kill the witch woman since they know after it, they would be victorious. Yu-Hyun isn't going to let them pass and goes on a full berserk mode to kill each and every soldier. But like that, time ticks by, and the number of soldiers don't seem to go down. This makes him get tired, and he looks back to see Hiram, hoping some miracle would take place and he could go back to his library. All at once, all the soldiers have stopped fighting, once they have noticed that King Hiram has fully awakened body sword unison. She lifts her sword up into the air and is much more composed than when she had initially gone into the battle. We would like to give Yu-Hyun some credit in trying to rizz up Hiram. The air around Hiram has suddenly changed. She is no more the scared and double-minded girl that she was a few seconds ago. She now shows the power of 1,000 warriors. The sole reason behind this sudden change is because she has fully awakened body sword unison. The sword showers a power of emerald light that roars of ungodly power. The Ottoman soldiers witnessing this scurry for safety, telling all their fellows to fall back until they know what is even happening. Hiram has other plans and doesn't want the Ottomans to get to safety. With this in mind, she picks up her sword, and with all the power in her arms, she brings it down with one swift hit. The sword lashes out a force that was equal to 1,000 elephants trampling over the battlefield. The magnitude itself makes the ground crack open and throw all the things that are in its path. Yu-Hyun looks at her from the corner of his eye and thinks to himself that he never expected her to reach this level. The power erupting from her sword is immeasurable. Jergases, the Roman king, has now appeared out of nowhere. Well, thank you, Mr. King, for showing up when two young individuals did all the work. Nonetheless, he thanks them for giving him and his men some time to heal and get ready for the next wave of attacks, since this was just a setback for the Ottomans. Dragassis knows that he is outnumbered against them, not to mention his men are wounded to the core. They have no way of winning this war. However, Yu-hyun thinks otherwise since he feels that they have a slight chance of winning with Hiram on their side. He points his bloodied sword towards the Ottoman side and gives the idea to kill their leader, after which the Ottomans themselves would slowly and surely break. King Dragassis questions Yu-hyun's idea, asking if it's even possible. Well, old man, if you ever read manhwas or mangas, it's certainly possible if you are the main character. Duh. Yu-hyun asks the king if he can arrange 300 men for this last fight. The king looks back at his wounded soldiers with a face that says, "I'm a worthless old man," all over it. He then proceeds to tell them a detailed heroic speech of how indebted he is towards them, and there is zero pressure if they wish to take part in this final battle for the safety of their homeland or if they wish to retreat. He knows that they have made a promise that the gods would help them win this war, but that isn't going to happen. If they plan on winning, they need to do this all by themselves. With his heart-touching speech ended, he looks up and is met with a positive response. All his men have appeared before him, wounded, hurt, and close to death. Yet they stand tall and strong for their king, showcasing their loyalty and desire to die by his side. Yu-hyun can see the support and love the king has developed with his people and is now ready to proceed with their mastermind plan. On the other end of the battlefield, the Ottoman leader Mehmed II looks over to the horizon towards the Romans and is pissed at Dragassis for not giving up. However, something feels very out of place and strange for him now, but he can't make sense of what that is. He assumes that all the reinforcements must have run out by now. Do they still have some left? While his mind plans out a variety of strategies, one of his soldiers screams out to look in the battlefield since the Romans are coming. Mehmed quickly takes a look and is surprised to see Dragassis approaching towards them with his wounded soldiers. They are showing no sense of backing down and are still standing as tall and as bold as they were when the beginning of the fight. Dragassis spares no time for the others to think. He screams at his men to attack at full force, and they all charge towards the Ottomans with their horses. The Ottomans are not ones to sit and watch. The archers get ready their crossbows and release a fury of arrows into the sky, making them fall like rain on a dark Sunday afternoon. The arrows pierce the body armors of the soldiers, who fall off their horses face first to the dry soil. They breathe their last breaths, their hearts content that they were able to sacrifice their lives for the king. Yu-hyun notices Hiram looking back at wounded and killed soldiers, to which he scolds her to not look back at all and focus on their mission. He explains to her that these men knew that they were getting themselves into and are in peace. Hiram can't help herself from worrying, which is when the Roman soldiers call out to her to finish the mission. They shall take care of the wounded. With that said, she looks forward and charges towards the Ottomans with her white horse. Yu-hyun and Hiram both jump off their horses. They know they can't break the enemy lines on them. At a fast speed, the two charge towards the enemy, and the Romans open up a path for them so they cannot be stopped. The Ottomans have noticed their strategy. They know these two are going head-on to their sultan, and so they try helplessly to stop them. With a roar of hatred and pure killing intent, Hiram screams at them to get out of her way, and slashes their throats with her sword. She is in no mood to take prisoners. Today shall be a day of blood and no mercy. Yu-hyun can see the Sultan Mehmed, and she stands behind his sifas, unmoved, heartless and cold-blooded. He looks at them with eyes of no desire, no passion, and no love. Eyes filled with war. Yu-hyun knows it'll be too late if they spend time fighting all the sippas, and he looks around the battlefield and catches a shield. Quickly, he picks it up and orders Hiram to use it as a way to jump over all the sippas. Like an angel, she flies over all the sippas, and they look at her with amazed eyes. They've never seen an angel do this before. An angel covered by blood and with a face as soft as hers that screams death, they speechlessly watch. Arrows fly here and there, missing her by inches. Not even their most skilled archer could land a blow. Mehmed looks at her and the words "amazing" erupt from his lips. He calls out to his arch-nemesis Dragassis before Hiram falls towards him. An enormous explosion occurs in the area that the Sultan was standing on. Is this the end of Mehmed? Everyone has held their breath. The Ottomans are fearing the worst. Could this mean the end of their great Sultan? King Hiram is on her knees behind the lifeless body of Sultan Mehmed. His body has been slashed into two, and it slowly falls apart. Yu-hyun and everyone else watch in amazement, as all the Ottomans slowly start to disappear into thin air. Hiram walks around with a proud and strong strut. She raises her sword up in the air and declares the war has ended, and they have come out victorious. Cheers of happiness erupt everywhere, and the Romans cry tears of joy, since they have done the impossible. Just when all hope was lost, Hiram came and changed their fate for the good. Amidst the cheers of cries and happiness, King Dragassus quietly watches all of them. Tears of happiness also develop in his eyes. He knows he has won. He knows his gamble and risk finally paid off. This is what he wanted to see. The sight of smiling and hugging amongst his people. These were the same men who were hopeless a few moments ago, and now they have no pain. They are now filled with a new source of hope and belief, something that he could have never imagined. Yoo-hyun and Hiram both look at each other and give a very embarrassed smile. They were able to defeat the Tyrant Sultan, and it was all possible after they both pushed each other to their limits. Dragassus approaches them and with his whole heart thanks them for being there for him. He takes off his helmet and gives them a low bow. He doesn't know how to repay them back for saving their lives. Yoo-hyun knows that he and Hiram weren't made for this realm, but he can feel the soldier's happiness. He tells the king to not think of himself so lowly and keep his head held high. The king wishes to reward the two, but he knows no amount of money can repay this debt, to which he proposes to bestow upon them knighthood. Hearing the title of knighthood sends chills down Yoo-hyun's spine. This is something only the best of the best could achieve. In the traditional Roman Empire, knighthood holds a heavy significance. Not to mention it holds similar value in the mixed world as well. It's like being crowned as the meme daddy in our Gen Z world. Yoo-hyun goes on to explain the perks of being given the title, which includes the great power of storytelling. It's a present that you could never obtain with points. King Dragassus brings his sword forward, and with all the honor and powers bestowed upon him, he grants them knighthood. A bolt of golden lightning lights up the area around them. After which, Yoo-hyun receives a chat window which tells him that he has now obtained the title of knighthood, and all physical and combat abilities will significantly increase. The king rests his hand on his chest, and with a happy smile bids them farewell before also disappearing into the light. Yoo-hyun and Hiram can't believe their lucky stars that they completed this realm. However, something amazing follows this conversation. Yoo-hyun receives another chat window which tells him that the beings of the upper realm have spoken their names. No one else from the lower realms has even accomplished this feat yet, and thus they are awarded with 10,000 TP. Their names will also be celebrated throughout the mixed world. Not to mention that they have finally eradicated the curse that was roaming in this realm, because of which they shall be rewarded with 10,000 more TP. The rewards keep coming by the minute. They have certainly hit the jackpot. Yoo-hyun doesn't know what the future holds, but he hopes to fight side by side with Hiram in all of their battles. Hiram wishes the same for her fellow comrade. A golden has now appeared before them, and on it is written the story of the Fighting Teller and the Sword Empress. After accomplishing an amazing quest in the Mind Realm, Yoo-hyun is back at his office at Baekhwa Management, where it seems they are being bombarded with offers every second. Looks like someone is in high demand. Baek Sur-yoon continues to answer the calls and rejects the offer since they are completely booked and can't take up any more work. Yoo-hyun can see her managing all this and is quite impressed with her skills. She may be short and timid, but this girl can surely manage everything for him. She keeps the phone down, and after a bit of relief, she looks at Yoo-hyun and asks if it's safe for him to be without the blessings. He doesn't think it's much of an issue, the only downside being he can't escape to a bystander's room or teleport during battle. He is pretty much a collector at this point. Yoo-hyun could see that she looks very tired and asks why that's so. Ever since his grand victory back in the Mind Realm, Sur-yoon has been receiving calls from different clans, commercials, and whatnot. Yoo-hyun tells her to not book any appointments with commercials unless they are from major players, since they won't benefit from the smaller ones. Even Divine Spirits have started their donations, and his viewers have increased as well. This would be very troublesome for her MC, but alas, with great fame comes great responsibility, or something like that. However, nothing major has happened until now, and it's because of the Fruit of Life that he has received in the Mind Realm after the battle. This is probably the doing of Satan, since he wants all the other spirits to know that this young man is his, so back off. Ooh, someone's possessive. While they're discussing, Yoo-hyun receives a message from an unknown entity. He thought that he had blocked everyone, but this is strange. He checks the message and it seems someone who resembles the glittering light is requesting a private meeting with him. Looks like a big shot to us. Yoo-hyun knows this is very important and excuses himself from the ladies and attends the meeting. He has now been transported to Jing-poon's room, where a man is looking to the chat windows and it looks like he has lost his mind. The man plans to attack Yoo-hyun since he no longer possesses his blessings. This man is none other than King Yoo-hyun, and he wants to make Yoo-hyun pay for fearlessly relinquishing the blessing. Yoo-hyun meets the so-called the one with glittering light, who wanted to hold a private meeting with him. When he meets this person, he in fact has glittering light. He is incredibly beautiful and has wings that are breathtaking. This guy is none other than Archangel Michael, who looks elegant. He thanks Yoo-hyun for responding to his sudden request, and the latter claims that it's no issue, he just didn't expect a request from Eden. Michael moves his hand and a chair appears. He tells him to sit down so they can have a conversation. He asks Yoo-hyun if he is surprised, and the latter responds that of course he is shocked to be in the company of such an important personality. Michael asked this question because Yoo-hyun looks pretty calm for a person who is claiming to be shocked. He reveals that the real reason he called him here was to verify if the rumors heard were true. Yoo-hyun gulps as he knows exactly what Michael is talking about. He asks him if he is referring to the rumors about Satan. The only problem is that Michael has always been Satan's arch-nemesis since ancient times. As the duo sits down, Yoo-hyun realizes that he is in hot water. He raises his hands in defense and claims that it is all a misunderstanding as he is not affiliated with Pandemonium, which Satan owns. When Michael says that Yoo-hyun's response is reassuring, the latter states that it is a bit strange because he didn't think that Eden would think well of his library. Michael admits that he didn't believe the rumors in the first place, and did the research himself to confirm that Yoo-hyun didn't have any ties with Pandemonium. However, he is aware of the fact that Yoo-hyun and that evil monster are in one way or another acquainted. His purpose is to know what relationship they have. Yoo-hyun comes clean by saying that he first met Satan at the entrance ceremony and talked for a while before parting ways. Michael isn't convinced that Satan gave Yoo-hyun the fruit of life after just bumping into him. There's more to the story and he knows it. Yoo-hyun immediately responds, and although it might sound somewhat arrogant, he believes that Satan took an interest in him and has been having a hard time trying to decline his offer to become his sponsor. This gets on Michael's nerves, but he maintains his composure. He asks Yoo-hyun why he declined Satan's offer when sponsors are very important to tellers like him. Yoo-hyun sighs and says that as important as they might be, his values will always be his priority. And to him, his goal is more important than that person's sponsorship. Yoo-hyun also tells Michael that his rejection only ended up in Satan liking him even more. Michael nods his head while claiming that it is all he had expected, but he still considered it better to verify the rumors in person. Michael says that he is glad that Yoo-hyun isn't sided with Pandemonium yet. He uses the opportunity to ask him if he's willing to be sponsored by Eden. It turns out that Yoo-hyun was waiting for Michael to bring up this topic, because there is no way they would send such a superior angel all by himself. Yoo-hyun stops to think for a minute. Eden is the one with the greatest divine force in the mixed world. He has a good image and influence in the mixed world. He knows that it is undoubtedly a great offer. However, Yoo-hyun gives the same response as the one he gave to Satan. He politely declines, and when asked about the reason, he responds that given his goal, he can't take on any sponsors. He just doesn't want his library to be aligned or completely associated with any sides, Satan or Eden. Michael asks if he's implying that in the future, stories that he will tell will contain good as well as evil. Yoo-hyun doesn't directly respond to that question, but simply says that he doesn't want the stories he tells to have any influence from any third party, good or evil. He knows that such a story has never been told before, and he doesn't care if he's considered cocky for trying to be different. Michael doesn't say a word. He just stands and listens closely to Yoo-hyun out of respect. Yoo-hyun uses this opportunity to spark interest in Michael. He tells him that if he finds his method questionable, he should just watch him closely. With a smirk on his face, he asks Michael if he's curious about the direction and the ending of the library of the teller who declined the offer of Eden. While Michael is a being that borders on greedlessness, it doesn't change the fact that he is one of the divine spirits that yearns for stories. He might not act like it on the surface, but he is clearly burning with curiosity on the inside. He quickly understands the situation and Yoo-hyun's intentions. He wants to take benefit from both Eden and Pandemonium by not associating his library with either of them, and maintaining a good bond with both. After a short pause, he tells Yoo-hyun that he is going to respect his wishes. He also admits that the story that Yoo-hyun is attempting to tell has captured his interest. This is why he wants to confirm it with his own two eyes. Before parting ways, Michael says that he wants to show his gratitude for taking the time to meet him separately because it would be bad for Eden's image if he lets Yoo-hyun leave empty-handed. As a personal sign of thank you, Michael gives him an egg-shaped object, and Yoo-hyun's eyes instantly light from the excitement as he already knows what it's for. However, after his explanation to Hiram and Suryun shows that he has absolutely no clue what it's for. He holds his chin with his hand as if he's going to tell us about Newton's fourth law, and claims that it is obvious that a cute dragon is going to come out of the egg and think of him as its owner, and then act cute towards him. Suddenly, he is reminded of the fact that, to Eden, dragons are a symbol of disgust and evil, so his assumption is wrong. He doesn't have more time to think though, because the egg begins to hatch. Whatever it is, he's about to find out. Everyone's eyes are glued to the egg. What comes out is an adorable baby owl. Although Yoo-hyun doesn't react, Hiram and Suryun are already hard-eyed and they want to pet it. However, the owl ignores everyone and casually sits on the top of Yoo-hyun's head. Hyrum starts to cry at the thought that the baby must not like her, and Yoo-hyun reminds her that maybe it's showing attitude because he was literally just born a few seconds ago. And it is also possible that it is acknowledging Yoo-hyun as its mother. However, none of that is important right now, because Yoo-hyun knows that the symbolic creature of Satan is a snake, and the animals that eat snakes are owls. So, you can tell what Michael was trying to imply. The owl also comes with a booklet. Hyrum is excited and wants to come up with the owl's name at this exact moment. She suggests the name Ool, which is followed by pin drop silence and cricket noises. But then again, as strong as she might be, she was never the sharpest tool in the shed. Yoo-hyun and Seo-yoon are absolutely appalled by that suggestion. She tells Yoo-hyun to name it himself. Yoo-hyun holds the cute baby in his hand and looks at him for a few seconds before naming him Baekyo, which means white owl. Collectors gather around an entrance to a mind realm, and it looks like they visit it often. They are trying to farm as many stories as they can, and even though it isn't as much as they expected, it is enough. However, their smiles disappear when Hyrum walks in with Yoo-hyun. She may be famous among the normal citizens, but for collectors, she is like a demon who wreaks havoc everywhere she goes. Unlike other collectors that are keeping the mind realm alive and farming stories, she just destroys every realm she enters. The entrance of this realm is in the city center, and it is known for being good for farming, so a lot of collectors are gathered here. As soon as they catch a glimpse of Hyrum, they start yelling that the farming spot breaker is coming. Chaos erupts everywhere as they rush into the entrance so they can get something before it's all over. Hyrum is annoyed, and she says that seeing their reaction only makes her want to clear the mind realm even faster. Looks like she has already gotten used to her nickname. Yoo-hyun tells Hyrum to step aside with Baekyo for a minute because he wants to make an announcement before he opens up his library. The current viewers in his library are 2,482, and the subscribers are 1,142. He is shocked to see that over 2,000 viewers joined almost instantly. He welcomes them to the story of the Fighting Teller and the Sword Empress. Some of the divine spirits start fighting amongst each other and command Yoo-hyun to show the Sword Empress already. It obviously pisses him off, and he says to himself at times like these he misses Satan. He tells his viewers that he opened the library earlier than usual to make an announcement. He thanks them for their support in growing his library significantly, and he admits that it has been really tough for him to manage everything. This is why he is planning to announce some rules from now on. One of the divine spirits informs him that other libraries have already made their rules and Yoo-hyun is pretty late. Yoo-hyun officially starts his announcement and says that the first rule is that no forming of groups is allowed within the library. The second rule is that no mentioning of other libraries or collectors is allowed, as it is a possible cause for arguments. The third rule is that unnecessary hate speech of other factions will be dealt with strictly. He also doesn't want any over-the-top comments through donations. A few of the divine spirits protest against this announcement and claim that this is making them want to leave. However, their statements don't faze him, and he rolls his eyes before blocking and kicking them out of his library. Most of the divine spirits are impressed by the fact that he doesn't give special treatment to spirits who talk through donations. However, a spirit named White King puts Yoo-hyun in a tough dilemma by donating him 1,000 points and telling him to take it easy. Now, that's a lot of points, but for Yoo-hyun, rules are rules. No one is allowed to command him to do something by giving a donation. Yoo-hyun is about to press the block button when the White King gives 10 times more donations. He sends Yoo-hyun 10,000 points and asks him if he isn't satisfied even now. This only pisses him off even more. Yoo-hyun stops for a minute and gives it a thought. White King of the Setting Sun Sea sounds like a powerful name, and given that he can donate a lot, he is definitely a big shot. He quickly realizes that this is none other than the one affiliated with the Heavenly Realm's 36 Heavens, the Western White Dragon. He knew that he would be visited by someone famous soon, given his popularity, but he didn't know that it would be this fast. Yoo-hyun smiles and tells his library that he is shocked to realize that he is in the presence of one of the 4 Dragon Kings of the Seas. The Dragon King donates more points and tells him to be lenient to the spirits. Yoo-hyun chuckles and apologizes that he can't do that. All divine spirits fall silent when Yoo-hyun says that a no means no. The Dragon King asks him how many more donations it will take him to bow down before him. Yoo-hyun knows that the king's pride has been hurt, but he repeats that no amount of money or authority can make him reverse the decision that he has already made. The Dragon King is so angered that the sky actually changes color. Yoo-hyun says that when an upper realm being displays power in the lower realm, then it means that he is really angered. The Genesis system gets activated, which means that the Dragon King can't do anything in the lower realms as long as this system is here. The king spams the donations as if he's throwing money at Yoo-hyun's face. The latter thanks him for the donations and politely removes him while smiling and congratulating him for graduating. The divine spirits are showing a mix of emotions. Yoo-hyun reassures them that since this is only a beginning, if they can maintain a good atmosphere within punishments, then he is willing to relax the rules. However, a comment cursing at him in rage shocks him. The Dragon King has bypassed the system. He tells Yoo-hyun that he will pay the price for disrespecting a divine spirit, but Yoo-hyun repeats that he didn't disrespect any divine order or even the Dragon King himself. He simply removed a guest that violated a rule. However, instead of admitting that Yoo-hyun has made a point, the Dragon King lashes out in anger. That's when Michael joins the library and asks what's going on. He interferes with the system and forcefully evicts the Dragon King, a mid-ranking divine spirit from the library. Yoo-hyun asks the other spirits if they have any issue with the rules. Due to Michael's presence, no one says a word, and Yoo-hyun is grateful. He tells his audience that they will be clearing another realm today. Today's realm is a bit easier compared to the one in the Constantinople War. Some of the divine spirits are disappointed and claim that their expectations were let down. Yoo-hyun is still confident and reminds his audience that they're not just entering it to play around and farm like the others. He calls Hiram in, and all the spirits rejoice to see the Sword Empress. The mind realm that they will be clearing is called the Theodolent Wetlands. It feels different from the mind realms that they have done so far. Yoo-hyun decides to look for the boundary after briefing Hiram about today's mission. However, he is interrupted by a group of hunters, who ask him if they'd like to join as they are usually 6 but lost 2 members due to some circumstances. Hiram knows that they can't join someone who is farming just for fun, so she declines their offer. Her sentence is cut short by Yoo-hyun, who responds that they would be more than happy to join them. Hiram is confused because this goes against everything that Yoo-hyun has taught her so far. What could have made him go against his own ideals? She looks at the enemy team and spots a very seductive-looking woman. Her soul evaporates as she realizes that this must be Yoo-hyun's taste in women, and the reason why he didn't react when she touched him. Then, both teams greet each other, and Hiram basically growls at them out of jealousy. The leader tells Yoo-hyun to follow them. When they disappear from sight, Yoo-hyun asks Hiram if she's fine. She, clearly, is overthinking about an entirely different topic. She tells Yoo-hyun that if she diets properly, she can become that woman. When Yoo-hyun reminds her what she's talking about, he makes a disgusted face, and reminds her to take care of her professional image. After saying that, he slowly leans closer towards her, and Hiram misinterprets it as if he's going in for a kiss. She blushes, and tells him to not do it in front of the spirits. Turns out she was just being Delulu. He was trying to whisper to her that the team that they have run into are actually a bunch of scavengers who kill people for fun. He warns her that from this point onwards, they must be really careful. Scavengers make a living by secretly collecting or stealing stories and texts left behind by other collectors in the Mind Realm. The reason is that they find elusive beings difficult to hunt down on their own, and only want the byproducts. So, the reason they approached Hiram and Yoo-hyun is to steal their stories. Yoo-hyun warns her that they'd be lucky if they only steal from them, because among the thieves, the casual murderers are also hiding. He believes that the 4 that came to them were probably the murderous kind. She asks him how he realized they were scavengers, and he responds that those people claim to be hunters, but their clothes show no signs of hunting. The place is a swamp, where water comes up to your ankles, so the slightest vigorous movement splashes the mud around. Above all, what he found most suspicious was how they approached them without hesitation, as if they didn't know them despite the fact that they are famous now. Hiram asks him that if they already knew that the party has ulterior motives, why didn't he reject them? Yoo-hyun's immediate answer is that there's no fun in that. Using his marketing skills, he riles up his audience and asks the divine spirits what they would have done if they were in his place. He tells them that the enemy is hiding a knife behind their back and considers them an easy target. The divine spirits, along with Michael, respond that they wouldn't let it slide. Yoo-hyun announces that the plan is to do what they expect them to do, and then at a crucial moment go on the offensive. Hiram, on the other hand, has her doubts. She asks him if they will really be fooled by this. Yoo-hyun tells her that the easiest people to scam are the ones who think they know everything. People who are condescending are his favorite prey. They join the team, and Hiram starts taking down monsters. The scavengers are shocked at how strong she is despite fighting for so long. One of their members tries to leave the scene with an excuse that an important matter has come up. Another one, Young-woon, leaves on a bathroom break. Yoo-hyun tells Hiram through telepathy that something is about to happen. The leader tells Yoo-hyun to go with Young-woon. On their way, Yoo-hyun asks the latter if everything is alright. He has read everyone's book, and they are all scumbags except for this guy. And, as he had expected, Young-woon tells Yoo-hyun to run away from the place and promises to create an opening of Hiram as well. He confesses that he stayed quiet when 2 people were murdered, so he feels guilty for that. He tells Yoo-hyun that he will go back and tell the boss to kill the latter. When Yoo-hyun asks him why they want to kill them, Young-woon replies that a famous teller asked them to and promised a contract in return. The divine spirits are impressed by Young-woon's behavior. Yoo-hyun smiles and reveals that he already knew everything, and there's nothing to worry about as it's already over. As soon as he says that, they hear the voices of the scavengers screaming. Hiram has dealt with them all. Their leader is still cocky as ever, and claims that they can send his team to jail, but they'll always come back. The spirits order him to kill the guy, and Yoo-hyun mercilessly starts using the sword on his friends to inflict fear in his heart. Hiram takes the sword from him, and Yoo-hyun assumes that she must be thinking that he's a psychopath. His jaw drops when she cuts the scavenger woman she was jealous of into pieces. Hiram cuts off the head of the woman, and Woo-hyun is speechless as the woman corpse lays in the swamp. Yoo-hyun stands with his eyes wide open, while thinking that he definitely didn't expect that from her. Meanwhile, Woo-hyun starts to scream as Hiram says that she'll take care of him too. She claims that she realized in Constantinople what she needs to do to attain her goal, and she's willing to be always ready to do whatever it takes. The treacherous man, Woo-hyun, finds himself cornered with his back pressed against the ground. His face is filled with a mixture of fear and desperation, and his eyes are darting frantically. It looks like he has finally realized the gravity of the situation. Beads of sweat form on his forehead as he stutters and requests Yoo-hyun and Hiram that he wants to talk it out. When he realizes that it has no effect on them, he goes as far as to say that they will regret killing him. Yoo-hyun makes a disgusted face and commands Woo-hyun that he needs to tell them what he knows. He also reminds him that he has no right to negotiate. Woo-hyun lets out a laugh that is filled with panic. He claims that if they kill him, they will never find the teller who hired them. This is probably his last shot at making a deal at surviving, and it looks convincing enough, because why wouldn't Yoo-hyun want to know about the mysterious man who wants to chop their heads off? The only problem is that it's Yoo-hyun who we're talking about, and he is unpredictable. He tells Woo-hyun that the name of the teller is Jin-pung, and he is from the Pentagram division of the Celestial Body Inc. Woo-hyun's face speaks for itself. He freezes in place as if he's doing the mannequin challenge. Yoo-hyun mocks him for thinking that he wouldn't know about the secret deal he made with him. Woo-hyun tries to say a sentence, but it comes out as broken words like a toddler who's learning to talk. It looks like he's trying to ask how Yoo-hyun knows all this. But of course, like the sassy protagonist Yoo-hyun is, he doesn't respond to the question. He turns around and walks away from Woo-hyun, while telling Hiram to get it over with. The only explanation we can think of is that Yoo-hyun is the type of person who keeps his friends close but his enemies closer. He probably keeps the list of the people he has pissed off that might come back for revenge. Jin-pung is clearly on top of that list. Hiram, with blood splashed on her cheek, gives Woo-hyun the stare of the Angel of Death and starts to approach him. Woo-hyun begins to scream and yells at her to not come any closer to him. She walks forward and he helplessly crawls backwards. In his desperate attempt to survive, Woo-hyun begins to beg Young-won to save him, the guy that he was using like a pawn. He uses every trick in the textbook to gaslight Young-won. He reminds them of all the factors he has done and how nice he was to him, which is straight up capping, obviously. She gets closer and he yells for help and eventually realizes that nobody is coming. His tears stop and his eyes look like they will bulge out of their sockets when he looks over at Yoo-hyun and sees him smirking. If we didn't know the plot of the story and tried to take this panel out of context, we would clearly mistake Yoo-hyun as a villain, because of how evil he's looking right now. And in the snap of a finger, the entire scene turns red, and Woo-hyun has his head cut off by Hiram. He got ahead of himself, huh? Someone has died, but Yoo-hyun can't help but laugh. Yoo-hyun claims that he has really enjoyed all of this. He says that he knows it's twisted justice, but it has become part of his nature after having endured everything in his previous lifetime. So it's not really his fault that he finds it exhilarating. The kind of people he hates the most are the ones who think that they're the best, and they point fingers at others and mock them until the wretched reality sits in and puts them into their places. He knows that the way he thinks is weird, but he has accepted who he is. He then makes a fancy pose like the narcissist he is and says that he hopes Jin-pung of the Pentagram will entertain him too. Young-won is scared and the system notifications start popping up that the divine spirits are enjoying themselves, but some are still craving more. Young-won is so scared that he starts taking steps back. He trips and falls down over Woo-hyun's bloody head. When he sees the lifeless head of the person that once used to be his boss, he begins to vomit. He starts questioning if he really did the right thing. He claims that for the first time, he decided to raise his voice to help someone and it meant nothing since he was being played. Hearing him scream, Hiram and Yoo-hyun turn their attention towards him and approach him. Young-won grits his teeth and asks loudly why did they have to kill them. Yoo-hyun calmly responds that if he didn't kill them, they'd be the ones to die instead. He repeats that if he didn't do it, then Young-won would be dead too. Young-won seems to be a pure-hearted person, and kind of dumb too, because he still can't grasp the matter. He yells at Yoo-hyun and says that it must all seem like a joke to him, since he's been given so many special treatments as tellers always chose him, and the divine spirits also sponsor him because he's strong. In a taunting tone, he asks Yoo-hyun what he knows about feeling like trash when you have nothing going on, and despite that, you must continue with your life. Yoo-hyun stares at him and says everyone has their unique role in life. He and Hiram just refuse to accept theirs and strive for more. He says that they steeled their resolve, worked hard, and even risked their lives for the sake of it. Young-woon's tears flood his cheeks, and he looks up at Yoo-hyun as he claims that he and Hiram might seem like the chosen ones, but they are exactly like him. To him, they may look like they haven't worked hard, but they are just like him. Young-woon asks him, with hopelessness in his eyes, why is he still like this? Yoo-hyun says it's because he's conformed to reality. He says that he refuses to consent with what's given to him, and he would rather take what he wants with his own hands, even if he has to take it from someone else. Young-woon isn't convinced with anything Yoo-hyun is saying, and asks him if he thinks he wants to give up, and asks what he can do if nothing changes despite his efforts. While sobbing intensely that you can practically hear him ventilating through your screen, he asks Yoo-hyun what if all of his efforts end in a failure and he's ridiculed. Yoo-hyun thinks about it for a moment because he knows everything he says is either going to break Young-woon or make him into a new person. He says that the world of humans is small, and everyone mistakes what they're feeling and sees. If someone labels you a failure, one would start thinking that the entire world sees him that way, because that is the only thing they focus on. Young-woon is kneeling on the ground, while Yoo-hyun is looking down to face him. It looks like Yoo-hyun's choice of words have started to do wonders, as Young-woon has stopped crying. Yoo-hyun continues and says that the world beyond what he knows doesn't even care about him, and nobody is blaming him because they don't even know who he is, and neither do they try to know him. If he wants to change, he needs to change how he views the world around him, and show people who don't know him who he truly is. Yoo-hyun starts to leave after giving him one last piece of advice, that it will be hard, but it's less pitiful than rotting away without trying. He tells Hiram that it's time to go, and she asks if it's okay to just leave like this. Yoo-hyun claims that it'll be fine. Then we see a monstrous plant facing off our Sword Empress. It is the boss of the Theodolent Wetlands, named Lepra, and it is an illusionary being. Hiram dodges its attack and then leaps into the air above it. Her fight face is as scary as ever, showing us how determined she is. She falls through the air and then slices the boss into pieces. The system notification notifies Yoo-hyun that they have cleared wetlands and earned 300 TP as a clear reward. She lands back down and the realm begins to vanish. She then says that she noticed that Yoo-hyun has been deep thought for a while now, and turns out he was thinking about Young-woon, since his book began to glow after hearing Yoo-hyun's TED Talk. Yoo-hyun has realized that people can truly change and just need to push forward to flip the switch in their head. He smiles and tells her it's nothing and that they are teleported back. Their aura is imposing, and outside, the collectors begin to cry since she ruined their spot. Some divine spirits begin to laugh at their reactions. Yoo-hyun says he feels a bit bad, but they should head out now, that they have gotten what they really came for. Their manager asks them how it went. She had killed someone in the mind realm, but she doesn't go into detail. Hiram simply said that it wasn't anything special, but she got many rewards. Yoo-hyun asks her to show him her status window. He looks concerned because some of the sections look really vague, and it seems oversimplified. Despite her rapid growth, the stats being marked low rank is weird. He tells her it's kind of a big issue, since if they are marked so vaguely, it makes it hard to gauge her level. He thinks about how after the apocalypse, there was a lot of major overhaul on the stats window. Back then, metrics were detailed and precise. He then asks her how it feels to work hard and grow, yet her stats remain the same when she checks it. She says that it would probably cause her to feel a lot of despair. He then claims that this is exactly what's been going on. It's got to be an intentional attempt to demotivate collectors. He says he thought the apocalypse was a result of carelessness by collectors, but what if there was another reason? What if someone caused it all from behind the scenes? Instead of being worried and on edge, Yoo-hyun seems to be enjoying this as he starts to laugh and makes the villainous look again. Hiram asks him what's up with her, and just like every other time, he gives her the usual "it's nothing." He says that he can't wait to bring down those lurking in the shadows who are hoping for the downfall of Earth, and challenges them to give it their best shot. Another day starts, and Baek comes into the office with an exhausted expression on her face. Hiram asks her where she went, and she says that she went to meet with the magazine publishers and that Hiram will probably have to do an interview soon. Hiram is surprised, and Baek says that she'll be getting more exposure from now on. Yoo-hyun says that collectors are like celebrities, so there's no need to stress. To him, an interview is a great way of making Hiram's name famous. Hiram bawls her eyes out like a little kid on their first day of school and claims that she only knows how to fight and can't do this stuff. He says she'll get a lot of money for the interview, and her personality instantly flips as she asks him how much she will get. Yoo-hyun assures her that a couple of thousands is the minimum they will give her. She instantly puts on her serious face and says that she will do it. Baek changes the conversation, asking Yoo-hyun what he's doing. He says he's working on a new weapon. Hiram says that it is just a cheap sword from the store though. He says that she's right and it only costs 100 points, then tells her to look at the information. It says Solo Ancient Relic Longsword, and she asks him if it means that it's a useful thing. He says that she might not know, but Solo is famous in the mixed world. It was an empire that was destroyed a few thousand years ago, known for magic engineering, and this sword is a relic from that time. Though nobody else knows the value of this sword in this world except for him, since he's from the future. It is a hidden relic that one can't even obtain from the Mind Realms. He looks excited, and it is indeed a great weapon. But are we just going to ignore the cutie pie on his head? He then tells Hiram to work on her main attack skill as she'll become a mid-level collector soon. She won't lose out to other mid-level collectors in physical stats, but she doesn't have a skill or story to go alongside her physique, as she has skipped many steps that others have gone through. So she needs to prepare for a mid or high-level story. Hiram says that those are expensive, and Yoo-hyun smiles and says he knows how to get them cheap. He explains that his first step is to look for lightning steps at the low-level stories. He tells her to find it in the point store. Then he says to go to the midsection and find Berserk Lightning in her skill, and then among the low levels again to buy Thunder Fury. And to buy all three of those. Baek looks confused and says that those skills are all known for being trashy, because nobody can handle the speed of the lightning steps, and Berserk causes the body to shock randomly, whereas Thunder Fury requires an IQ test to use. Together, they are known as the useless trio skills. He asks them if they doubt him, and Hiram instantly buys them. She asks if all she has to do is just learn them. She then absorbs the skills and shocks herself. Yoo-hyun goes over to her to help her and then puts the sword over her head, and the lightning begins to be absorbed by the blade. Baek watches as the blade transforms into a completely different one. She's super excited as he tells her to be careful. He knew the skill was going to be amazing, but it's even better in person. He then says that it looks like Hiram is done absorbing all the stories. He asks her if she feels uncomfortable requesting her to open her stats. Turns out that the previous 3 skills have been replaced by a new skill called the Heavenly Lightning Sword. He says it'll help her grow, as it's a hidden piece that lets her control lightning from the heavens above. And it's a better story than most high-level stories. Hiram is so happy that she jumps at him, but he dodges it and reminds her that she could have shocked him with her lightning right now. She asks how he knew about this and tells him that the spirits would have loved it if he showed them, but he knows that it would have been troublesome if any of them asked about its origins. He gives her the sword and tells her to absorb the lightning she cannot control through it. Baek gives Yoo-hyun an earful for using Hiram as a battery to make the sword. He says it's all to help her out, and he wonders if she's worried about her. Baek says if it went bad, her office would be burnt to ashes. He is amused by the fact that she is what she was so concerned about. He then receives a message. It's from Choi Jung-mo, who says he has information on Choi Do-yoon. This surprises him, and he says he'll be heading out for a bit and runs off. He says since it's a new start, he doesn't want to get involved with him, but yet he's focused on him. He wonders if he'd be mad seeing him or he might end up feeling nothing. Whatever the case, he wants to meet him. He goes to Jung-mo's office and says that he'd like to meet him, but Jung-mo questions him about his relationship with Do-yoon. He says that they aren't acquainted. He just knows about him from rumors. Jung-mo says it wasn't hard to find him and shows him a picture. Yoo-hyun's eyes widen with surprise as he realizes that the person in the picture is indeed Choi Do-yoon, and the one he has been searching for. He hastily stands up from his seat, his heart racing with anticipation, and tells Jung-mo that he wants to meet Do-yoon immediately. Curiosity fills Jung-mo's eyes as he observes Yoo-hyun's reaction. He explains that Choi Do-yoon went missing 10 years ago during the Mind Unification Day, when the Earth was added to the mixed world. Jung-mo explains that he is one of the people that disappeared during the 99 Days of Revolution. They call the people who disappeared the Vanishing. The world experienced a massive collision when the Earth merged with the mixed world. All barriers between the illusions and the truths disappeared, and that day is called the Mind Unification Day. The exact causes of the vanishing remain a mystery. One thing that was for sure was that these people had entered another dimension. Some of the vanishing returned to Earth, but only as corpses. Those who did return alive came back in the form of monsters. Yoo-hyun knows that in the future, some vanishing will return as perfect humans, but it doesn't seem to be the case in this timeline. He refuses to believe that Do-yoon was a vanishing who somehow appeared at the end of the Earth. However, the power and discipline that he showcased did make him look as if he was from another world. Jungmo informs him that Doyoon has a mother who has been tirelessly looking for him for 10 years and wants to meet Yoo-hyun. He is shocked as to how she even knows about him. He wonders if his parents are alive right now as well. There's one thing that's constantly bothering him. If he's alive here, what is going on to his past self? If he was reborn as a teller, somewhere in this world his younger self exists. He starts sweating as he imagines a scene of meeting his parents and they start labeling him as an imposter. He ran into Hiram, who had been following him because he looked worried. Yoo-hyun can't stop thinking that the reason why he wants to be a main character in this life is because of his parents, and he can't stop even if they don't recognize him. He wonders if Hiram has a family. He's about to read her a book, but then decides to ask her about it like a normal human. However, her story sends shivers down his spine. His dad abandoned her when she was young, and her mother abused her and then took her own life. Yoo-hyun realizes that she could have a breakdown any second, and reassures her that he will never leave her side. He tells her that he has decided to meet his saviors, by which he means his family. They visit his hometown and he recalls the wholesome memories. Suddenly, he runs into a girl that catches his attention and he freezes into place. In the midst of a cozy and cute neighborhood, a young girl named Kang Yura is being yelled at by her mother. As she is running towards her mother, she comes to a halt in front of Kang Yoo-hyun and Hiram. Yoo-hyun nearly gasps at the sight of the girl that looks like a female version of him. He has a million different things to say right now, but he's cut off the exact second he's about to say something to the kid. Yoo-hyun is forced to look away, and he turns his head to the source of the voice calling out to Yura. The woman yells Kang Yura once again, and this time Yura gasps as well, because she realizes that the wrath of her mother awaits her. A well-dressed, beautiful woman donning pearl earrings and a pearl necklace is yelling at Yura. She scolds her by saying that the one who runs away from their work will never succeed. Yura responds just like any other teenager would. She asks her mother to stop nagging her in the middle of the street since people are watching her. Her mother finally diverts her attention to the strangers in front of her daughter, who watch the scene unfold. She bows in front of Hiram and Yoo-hyun and politely apologizes for being too loud. Upon seeing his mother, Yoo-hyun's heart wants to call her mom and tell her the truth right away, but he knows that he cannot do this. He shouldn't have been hoping for anything in the first place. He should not have had even a teeny tiny hope that his mother would recognize him, because Kang Yoo-hyun does not exist here. Kang Yura is the new owner of the place and position that he once used to hold. That is when the mother calls out to him, asking if they have met before, because her daughter Yura resembles him a lot. Yura agrees and adds that she thought the exact same thing upon seeing him. Yura asks Yoo-hyun if he knows her dad, but she doesn't let him respond because something more interesting than that has caught her attention. She points at Hiram, standing behind Yoo-hyun, and goes crazy just like any K-pop fangirl would upon seeing her bias. After panicking and being frantic for a few seconds, Yura tells her mom that this is the person she was telling her about. The famous Sword Emperor is standing right in front of her, and Yura can't help but giggle uncontrollably and beg for her autograph. While Yura's mother is telling her to calm down because she is probably freaking out the Sword Emperor. And Yoo-hyun just breathes a sigh of relief, and decides that it must be the fate that he met his mother like this. He smiles at her and asks if they could talk for a bit. The group of 4 people headed into a cozy cafe and start chit-chatting. Yura is just giggling and smiling and adoring the Empress sitting right in front of her. And Kang Yoo-hyun introduces herself to this woman, supposedly his mother. He tells her that he works at Celestial Body Inc. as a storytelling office teller. Seems like Yura has found a new person to fangirl over because she is seeing Yoo-hyun in a new light after the revelation. Yoo-hyun's mother thought that he might be a relative since he looks so similar to her husband, but her suspicions are cleared once it's revealed that he is a teller and not a human. Yoo-hyun does realize that his mother feels something from him. His heart is aching to tell his mother the truth about his identity, but he cannot. Yura, on the other hand, has her eyes sparkling with hope and asks Yoo-hyun if he can make her into a collector. The mother tries to stop her from talking further, but Yoo-hyun answers anyway. In response to her question, he says that it's impossible to turn an ordinary person into a collector. Tellers form contracts with those who are already collectors. They can't turn people into collectors. Yura seems upset and bewildered at the same time, and tears can be seen welling up in her eyes, while her mother feels a sense of relief wash over her and then continues yelling. She tells Yura that depending on others, aka tellers, to reach one's goals is wrong from the get-go. She should recognize it when something is impossible and let it go like a wise person. Yura can't hold in her tears anymore. She starts crying and runs away from the scene. Yura's mother apologizes to the guests as she feels sorry that her daughter has shown her worst side. But Yoo-hyun understands that it's normal for teenagers like Yura to find collectors cool. However, Yura's mother thinks that her daughter only sees the glamorous side of being a collector. she never considers the struggles of an unknown collector. And although she knows that she should not be saying this as her mother, she explicitly states that Yura has no talent. Yoo-hyun jitters at his mother's words because this is exactly what he was told in his youth as well. He asks Hiram to give them some space and go to Yura, who must be at the playground right now. Hiram leaves and the mother-son duo is left alone now. Yoo-hyun advises the mother that there is no need to give up on Yura just because she has no talent. However, Yura's mother understands that people should always dream big, but she has learned through life that there are dreams you can't achieve just by wishing. Since Yura is her child, she wishes to tell only good things to her, but not when it comes to being a collector. That is one hell of a difficult job, and she doesn't want her daughter to get hurt and wants her to grow up well. Well, the mother isn't wrong, but Yoo-hyun still thinks that she shouldn't be doing this. Becoming a collector is her child's dream. No matter how difficult or challenging that path is, she cannot dismiss it. He suggests she show Yura the reality. She should allow her to see what it truly means to be a collector, and how dangerous that is. And if she still persists, then there's no helping it. That would mean that Yura has chosen it even after knowing everything. And her mother should not think so lightly of her child's determination, says Yoo-hyun, with an anger pent up from his past life. A simple phrase or an act of encouragement can make a person change, and Yoo-hyun believes that an honest conversation between the mother and daughter can make things clear. He hopes that she will believe in her child's dream just one more time. No matter how hard or bleak reality is, one needs to dream big. If she heads towards her dreams, she will be living as the main character of her life one day, says Yoo-hyun. No matter how dangerous or challenging the path is, if one's goals lies at the end, they cannot stop or be stopped. So he just hopes that she would just believe in Yura a little more. Yura's mother sighs and agrees, as she puts her head down, realizing that she might have overstepped as her mother and stifled her potential. Anyhow, this conversation has been nothing short of fascinating for Yura's mother. It's her first meeting with Yoo-hyun, yet she feels as if she's talking to her grown child. Yoo-hyun nervously chuckles, and it seems that Yura and Hiram are back as well. He asks for a moment with Yura as well. When they are alone, Yoo-hyun asks Yura what made her dream of becoming a collector. Yura hesitates at first, but then responds. She found the pride and confidence of collectors in their lives dazzling, so she wanted to be like them. Yoo-hyun smiles at her, and after a few words of affirmation, he asks Yura if she's willing to die to become a collector. After a little contemplation, Yura still seems confused if she can really do this risky job, and Yoo-hyun comes up with just the right words. She can do it. If someone had assured him that he could do it, even once, he would have also turned out differently in his past life. A bronze book shows up on top of Yura's head. The moment she feels reassured, and Yoo-hyun just passes her the warmest smile. A few words can really do wonders. As the sun sets, Yoo-hyun and Hiram part ways with the family. Yura really wants to spend more time with these two, but there's no helping it since they're both busy. Yoo-hyun tells them that it was a pleasant experience meeting them. He hopes that everything happens as they want it to be. After parting ways, Yoo-hyun and Hiram are seen waiting at the bus stop in their fancy noble-like suits. It's the golden hour, and Yoo-hyun seems really happy to Hiram. Anyhow, Yoo-hyun wants to know about the talk that Hiram and Yura had at the playground. Hiram chuckles and tells him that it's their little secret, but their conversation is soon interrupted when they hear a lady calling out to Yoo-hyun. Yoo-hyun's mother is seen running towards the bus stop. He asks Hiram to excuse him for a moment and goes to his mother. He worriedly asks her if something's wrong. Well, she only feels like she did not bid him a proper farewell and didn't say the things that she wanted to. She tiptoes and wraps her son into a big, warm hug, and out of nowhere she tells Yoo-hyun that he has worked hard. Yoo-hyun shivers, and beads of sweat drop down his face as he tears up at his mother's hug and words. Oh, how he had longed for this moment. Yoo-hyun feels this strong desire coming up to tell this woman that he is not her son. He needs to draw the line and clearly state that they are just strangers. Yoo-hyun's mother tightens her arms around him, and he resists the urge to hug her back. But in a few seconds, he gives in and hugs his mother back. It's about time that he acknowledges and accepts that he has indeed worked hard. The golden hour and the warm hug shared by the mother-son duo is a beautiful moment, and the world seems to stand still. Yoo-hyun's mother will cheer him on forever. Yoo-hyun thanks her with his entire heart, and as she turns her back to leave, he prays that she will spend her days peacefully in this life. In his previous life, Yoo-hyun's parents passed away at the beginning of the end, but this time no more atrocities shall happen. His parents will not pass away, nor will the end happen. He is the one who will not let these things happen. Back at the pandemonium, Jin-pung is still seen going about his mischievous plans. He spills black ink all over by mistake and stains the pages. That pisses him off, and he begins yelling. He is looking at a list of dead people that makes him clench his fists for some reason. He cannot believe that all of these people are dead, while that pain of a human being, Kang Yoo-hyun, is still alive. There is only one method left for him to deal with Yoo-hyun, but he cannot even think of using that. He dismisses the screen in front of him and goes into a state of frenzy. But it seems that he has to put a break to his temper tantrum because Argyle has arrived at his library. He is surprised, but Argyle is just here to check if her Jing-poon is doing the work that she has assigned him. But it seems that he has not been doing his work, and Argyle feels incredibly disappointed. Trying to make him feel guilty, Argyle says that she believed in Jin-poon, but alas he couldn't do her work. Jin-poon panics and tries to give an explanation because he has never failed at carrying out his work before. But Argyle feels very sad because Jin-poon tried to kill her precious colleague. Jin-poon says that she's saying absurd things, but Argyle accuses him of calling her a liar instead. She raises high into Jin-poon's library and smacks his head into the floor, and he bows down trying to ask for forgiveness. Argyle decides to give him just one more chance by conducting a storytelling battle. It will be a bet between tellers with their libraries on the line. Argyle has a secret collector that the pentagram has been raising and that can shake up the library's views and strengths. It will be the best opportunity for Jin-poon to defeat the Sword Empress and take control of Kang Yoo-hyun's library. He can surely get rid of him this time. Back at his home, Kang Yoo-hyun is working with blood and tusks, trying to awaken the true form of Hiram's blue sword. Yoo-hyun uses the tusk and attempts to engrave a mana circuit on it. Suddenly, a blue blast lights up Yoo-hyun's room, indicating that the Salio Ancient Relic Longsword will now evolve into the Salio Empire Magic Engineering Sword. A beautiful blue sword is unveiled, and its stats have gone all the way up too. Using this sword, there will be increased chances of fatal blows. It can defend against magic, can transform into shapes, and there is no cooldown. In short, this is just incredible. Some of the uses are still locked, but the most shocking part for Yoo-hyun is that this sword contains an enormous ego. And with a swish, a little blue girl comes out of the sword with a book on top of her head. This is a speaking sword with an alter ego. Yoo-hyun introduces himself to this ego that has been asleep for God knows how long. Since she doesn't remember her name or anything, she calls Yoo-hyun her master and asks him to name her. Yoo-hyun names her Baekryun, a white-colored lotus. Since Yoo-hyun officially becomes her master, he can feel her story flowing into him. The awakening of the ego of the ancient longsword is about to be completed. In return, Yoo-hyun's story is also flowing into Baekryun. But it seems that there has been an information overflow, and Baekryun has also found out about the secret reincarnation. Oops. A reincarnated person is basically someone who has already died and has been reborn again. But this information seems a little too much for Baekryun. She manages to read Yoo-hyun's past using the owner's contract. Yoo-hyun is quick to realize that it will be pointless to hide his story from her. Baekryun is looking at Yoo-hyun with the most adorable upset face ever, and Yoo-hyun decides it's time to explain everything to her. A little while later, she seems to have grasped the story, but it's still fascinating to her. She thinks that Yoo-hyun was able to find her due to knowledge from his past life. Well, that is partly true, but the person that used this sword in the past had no idea that Baekryun was an ego sword. So, in conclusion, Yoo-hyun is the one who has awakened her, and that is only because he has a characteristic called Engraver. Anyways, back to Baekryun's excitements. She never imagined that her master would be a teller. She absolutely loves this news, and thinks that she will have a lot of fun. Baekryun has always been curious about the storytelling that the tellers do. Yoo-hyun laughs it off and tells Baekryun that she should look forward to an annoying amount of storytelling now. She uses her little hand to shake Yoo-hyun's finger, and they both hope that they will get along well. Later on, standing in a grassy land alongside Hiram, Yoo-hyun presses on the screen to open up his library. As soon as the library opens, he manages to get a whopping amount of 2,163 viewers. It's been a while, and Yoo-hyun's viewers seem genuinely curious. He did write in the announcement that the team rested a bit and has returned in a new reorganized way now. Yoo-hyun will be explaining everything one by one now. Firstly, he will be explaining the story that he will show to the viewers today. As he's about to announce the name of the Mind Realm, someone interrupts by shouting at Yoo-hyun. It's none other than the one and only Ugly Jin-poon. He requests a storytelling battle with Kang Yoo-hyun. The divine spirits begin murmuring amongst themselves, and some of them are feeling interested at the sudden incident. Baekryun is curious about the battle and asks for more information on it. Just as the name suggests, storytelling battles involve fighting using stories. It's not possible for all tellers, and it's a method only used among the tellers of Celestial Body Inc. Yoo-hyun wonders if it's alright for Baekryun to come out like this, but the fact is that only he can hear or see her. Well, new day, new information. Anyhow, the storytelling battle relies solely on the collector's abilities and the help of the teller. It's a fight that allows the winner to legally take control over the library of the loser. Now, this sounds like a big deal to Baekryun. Yoo-hyun's response to the call for the battle is simple. He simply states that he doesn't want to fight and begins laughing. Jinpung is left shocked, while the divine spirits are feeling down now. Well, Yoo-hyun is still sticking to his answer. He doesn't have a reason to accept the offer in the first place. Jinpung is simply an uninvited guest here. It's obvious that he has been planning to do this for quite some time. Yoo-hyun twists and turns his words to make Jinpung seem like a villain here. A villain who made the use of the spirit's presence to pressurize Yoo-hyun into accepting the offer. After screwing Jinpung over, Yoo-hyun finally decides to accept the request on one condition. If they're going to fight, then Yoo-hyun needs to put something on the line. And he doesn't want to bet on something half-hearted, so he decides to bet on everything the two parties have. Well, that's a banger. The winner will take everything that the loser had, including the right to live or die. Sounds crazy. But Jinpung is getting excited because he thinks that Yoo-hyun is walking into the trap himself. This storytelling battle is officially established, and it is called a deathmatch. Argyle is overlooking the situation as well, and she seems to be getting excited too. Things seem to be turning out better than she imagined for herself. She thinks that her team can eat Yoo-hyun up. Hiram, on the other hand, has got a bad feeling about this match because they have bet everything. But Yoo-hyun knows that they'll be fine, and it's a good opportunity to show Baekryun off as well. Hiram still seems worried, and that's completely normal. Even some of the divine spirits were questioning Yoo-hyun's actions of agreeing on such rash conditions. Even Baekryun thinks that this match is basically digging your own ditch, cause it's only one person versus an entire department. But all their worries are set aside after Yoo-hyun's brilliant explanation. Jinpung and his manipulator, Argyle, are people who think that they know everything, and that's going to bring their demise. Yoo-hyun took every single step on purpose, and he has a brilliant method to defeat them. Plan executed like a brilliant psycho. 5 minutes before the start of the battle, Yoo-hyun flies Baekryun through a window. Then he has a brief discussion with Hiram, and it's finally time to go to the stadium. As for the Pentagon department, they have brought out a wild card collector. It's a rude young man who seems really confident for the fight. The battle is beginning, and both teams are asked to come out of their rooms. But here comes the surprise of the century. The Pentagon department will not be fighting against the Sword Empress. King Yoo-hyun has made his way to the arena instead. The grand arena has been beautifully built. Marble columns and engravings show that some legendary warriors must have fought here once. Right now, thousands of people fill the stands. Their eager faces are painted with a mixture of thrill and fascination. The arena pulsates with enthusiasm, and the air crackles with energy as two formidable opponents enter the dueling platform. Their eyes are locked in a fierce gaze. Suddenly, there is pin-drop silence in the entire stadium when everyone notices Jinpung's opponent. The mysterious collector, with a hoodie still over his face, has been waiting for the Sword Empress to show up so he can defeat her and get it over with quickly. However, to everyone's shock, the one who will be dueling with Jinpung's collector is not Hiram, the infamous Sword Empress, but it is her teller, known for his sadistic and merciless strategies, King Yoo-hyun. We have seen Yoo-hyun pull the strings and orchestrate mastermind plans to help Hiram achieve success and popularity up until now. But can he fill Hiram's shoes and fill her position? How good is he in physical combat? The last time we saw him fighting was when he died. But now that he has decided to be the main character of his life, can he stand his ground and win the battle? Let's find out. Yoo-hyun and his rival hold a stare down while the audience tries to process what is going on. The collector displays confidence with his muscular frame, and Yoo-hyun smiles while placing his hand on his new sheathed sword. The reactions of the spectators are mixed. While some are confused and are feeling chills down their spine, there is a divine spirit sitting in the middle of them all, who is looking extremely proud. He is sitting with arms crossed and a big smile on his face. This spirit claims that, as expected, Yoo-hyun never does easy, predictable things. It turns out that this divine spirit is none other than the devil himself, who had once struck a deal with Yoo-hyun after getting impressed by his resolve and pride. He says that he had been trying to predict Yoo-hyun's next move, but he never could have imagined that he would come out to participate in the duel himself. He hopes that Yoo-hyun will fulfill his expectations. Jinpung's teller asks him what the Sword Empress's teller is doing on the battlefield. He questions if the rules even allow this. It's not that he's complaining. He just looks confused and impressed at the same time. Every step that Yoo-hyun takes makes Jinpung tremble and sweat heavily. This time too, he is standing beside the stage and is drenched in sweat. He responds to his collector's question and says that there is no rule against such a move. Suddenly, an evil thought crosses his mind, and a smile creeps up on his face. He admits that although he is a little surprised by the sudden turn of events, this is a perfect opportunity to kill him. Jinpung orders his collector to make sure that Yu-hyun doesn't survive the battle. The collector doesn't even look at him and gives a cold response that he's planning on killing Yu-hyun regardless and doesn't like being ordered around. Their teller-collector dynamics are nothing like Yu-hyun's and Hiram's. Baekryun looks genuinely concerned and asks Yu-hyun if this plan is going to work out at all. Yu-hyun looks at his opponent and concludes that this guy is not ordinary. He is wrapped in a dark red ominous aura, and his hands are in his pocket as if he's on his everyday morning walk. Yu-hyun reassures Baekryun that there is nothing to worry about. He summons his opponent's book so that he can get as much information on him as possible before the fight commences. He wasn't expecting that the first page would make his blood run cold. His name is Kim Han-jung. He is the Whitechapel's murderer. All the stories that are under his name sound nothing less than a horror movie. His skills include Murderer Ghost Sword, Blood's Ecstasy, Senses Maximization, Fog Stealth, Darkness Blitz, and Excessive Bleeding. Yu-hyun anxiously looks at the words in front of him as he realizes that this guy is the notorious Jack the Ripper. In around 1 year, there will be a collector serial killer incident in Korea. Collectors are killed not in the mind realm, but in reality. And since all murdered collectors will be mid-class, it will be a huge shock for everyone. Yu-hyun recalls that the incident remained unsolved because the culprit's identity could not be found. As soon as the end came, he revealed his own identity. But in the end, he lost his life trying to comfort Choi Do-yoon, Yu-hyun's arch-nemesis. Yu-hyun recalls Han-jung's eyes filled with bloodlust, and then Do-yoon's condescending face as he took him down. What's important is that before Han-jung died, he killed at least several thousand innocent people. What he doesn't understand is why Pentagram was secretly raising a murderer like him. In the past, Pentagram was also active in telling stories and following the end. He connects the dots and realizes that Pentagram is related to the end of the Earth. Yu-hyun's gaze darkens and he places his hand on his sword, ready to unsheath it. Is he planning to nip the evil in the bud and kill Han-jung before he claims the life of any innocent? But then again, you can never predict what's going on in his head. Meanwhile, Hiram is sitting in the waiting room and tears are constantly flowing down her cheeks. Her eyes are glued to the screen as she says that she should have been the one to enter the fight. She claims that if something happens to Yu-hyun, then she will just blame herself. So what exactly happened between these two? A few hours earlier, when Yu-hyun told her that she couldn't go out, Hiram lashed out and said that there was no need for Yu-hyun to go in her place. Yu-hyun calmed her down and stated that this was his fight, as the enemy was trying to kill him. So there's no need for her to get swept up in the mess he has created by pissing off his enemies. Hiram, being the stubborn girl that she is, insisted that she is his collector, and collectors fight for their tellers. So from her perspective, it was obvious that she should be the one to go. Yu-hyun reminded her that he was not her average teller. Most tellers don't fight, but Yu-hyun is different. He understood the look on Hiram's face and reminded her that if she continued acting like this, it would mean that she wasn't believing in him. He thanked her for worrying for him and repeated that there was no reason to be anxious. Through his master manipulation, he was able to convince Hiram. He said that her behavior means that she believes that he will lose. Hiram immediately lowered her head out of shame and realized that deep in her heart, she believed that he would not win and didn't want him to risk his life. She felt bad because Yu-hyun always blindly believed in her, and yet she couldn't believe in him for once. Yu-hyun read her expressions and patted her head. He repeated that she shouldn't worry about him, as he isn't as weak as she thinks he is. Her eyes sparkled up after that adorable interaction. He looked at her and said with utter confidence that he would show her that she was being anxious for nothing. He was sure that he would prove everyone who was laughing at him from afar wrong. Hiram agreed back, but now she is feeling nervous again. But she chooses to believe in him. The notification pops on her screen and her heart starts racing again. The battle is officially starting. The duo is transported to a mind realm and their surroundings change. The day turns into night and Yu-hyun is taken to London Whitechapel. He has the sword in his hand and Baekryun is still hovering above his shoulder. The pedestrians are going about their day. Baekryun points out that Han-jung has disappeared into the air even though he was just standing there a few seconds ago. Yu-hyun wonders if Han-jung has already activated his stealth skill. Meanwhile, Han-jung is observing the entire scene unfold in front of him from a higher ground. He is amused by the confused expression on Yu-hyun's face. This guy still hasn't removed his hands from his pockets. It looks like this is his playground. His next objective is simple: kill Yu-hyun. Just when he's about to plan his first move, Yoo-hyun looks up at him with a frown on his face. Han-jung is caught completely off guard. He doesn't let it break his composure, and assumes that this must have been purely a result of luck. He refuses to believe that Yoo-hyun's senses are sharp enough to catch him this quickly. He activates stealth again and changes his position. He hides behind the crowd of pedestrians and laughs while thinking that there is no way Yoo-hyun is going to notice him in the middle of all these people. Well, Yoo-hyun is the protagonist of this story for a reason. He turns his neck a full 360 degrees and spots Han-jung in the middle of all the NPCs. This is the first time that Han-jung is feeling a little on edge. He wonders if Yoo-hyun can see through his stealth. His plans come crashing down on him as he watches Yoo-hyun's stare piercing through his soul. Argyle from Pentagram is a little annoyed at Han-jung because she used to think that he was confident in his stealth. She calls him to remind him of his mission, and it looks like Han-jung talks rudely with everyone. He tells her to shut up and claims that even if she doesn't say anything, his plan is always to dispose of him properly. With his dagger in his hand, Han-jung rushes at Yoo-hyun. He thinks that even if he has discovered him, if he attacks him from his blind spot, he might be able to get rid of him. While hoping that Yoo-hyun won't be able to block his next attack, Han-jung jumps in the air and swings the dagger at his blind spot. Yoo-hyun doesn't even get the time to move his eyes or even blink. However, just when the dagger's sharp edge is about to cut through him, he not only dodges it, but stops it with his sword. Han-jung freezes in his place. His breath stops, and his eyes bulge out from the shock. It looks like he has finally met a worthy opponent, even though he still doesn't understand how he's doing all of that. He activates stealth again, and disappears into the crowd once more. What he doesn't know is that Yoo-hyun's eyes aren't on him, but on his glowing book that he can spot from miles away, especially since it's nighttime. Even Baekryun is confused. She asks him how he can keep track of Han-jung. Yoo-hyun responds that he has his ways of achieving his goals. Baekryun states that Han-jung is probably certain now that Yoo-hyun can see through his stealth, so he needs a new strategy now. Yoo-hyun gives a cold one-liner response again, and claims that if Han-jung doesn't come to him, then he will go to him. Yoo-hyun jumps into the air and runs at full speed towards Han-jung. The latter just stares in shock as his enemy comes towards him like a bullet train. Luckily, he uses his dagger to stop Yoo-hyun's attack. He has had enough and finally drops his mysterious appearance. He desperately asks Yoo-hyun how he can see him. Yoo-hyun mocks him for thinking that he could do something just with his stealth. This annoys Han-jung and hurts his pride. He grits his teeth and asks Yoo-hyun if he thinks that he's dumb enough to come to a battlefield with just his stealth skill. He disappears in a flash and reappears behind Yoo-hyun's back. For a moment, it looks like Yoo-hyun has no clue where his opponent is. Han-jung smiles mischievously as the word death becomes imprinted in his vision. He swings his dagger again. Hiram yells, hoping that Yoo-hyun can hear through the screen. It turns out that Yoo-hyun has just been playing pretend this whole time. He easily dodges the attack, shattering Han-jung's confidence even more. Han-jung senses the hostility in his voice and steps away quickly. Yoo-hyun snickers and asks him if he's done now with his pathetic attacks. He smiles while claiming that it is his turn now. Baekryun is trying her best to put on her fight face, but she just looks adorable. Meanwhile, Baekyo is doing his job. He hovers above the audience and catches their reactions. They compliment Yoo-hyun for smoothly dodging the attack. They wonder if he has some secret skill in possession that allows him to do that. Some of them believe that Yoo-hyun has some dirty trick up his sleeve because he doesn't look like someone who can fight. They think that he is just here to get attention. Yoo-hyun can hear all of these comments. He explains that when he read Baekyo's book last time, he was curious about his skills, one of which was sharing vision and hearing with the owner. He can keep up with the sentiments of the divine spirits because, in the end, they are the judges and the ones that he's trying his best to impress. Some of them have already bet on King Yoo-hyun losing the match. He knows how to change the way everyone thinks about him. Even though he has had the upper hand in the fight up until now, there is something that is missing. This time, he decides to attack first. He points his sword at Han-jung's throat and rushes towards him. Han-jung relaxes himself and tries to guess the direction in which Yoo-hyun will swing his sword. While he's busy choosing between left or right, Yoo-hyun appears over his head with a spear in his hand. Han-jung wonders if he's losing his mind or if a spear has magically appeared out of thin air. Yoo-hyun manages to leave a cut on Han-jung's cheek. The latter steps back, but Yoo-hyun doesn't plan on giving him any more breaks. He steps forward and launches another attack, putting Han-jung in a defensive position. The air is filled with the sounds of metal clashing back and forth as Han-jung questions what kind of swordsman Yoo-hyun is. After exchanging a couple more blows, Hanjun gets a fair idea of how far Yoo-hyun's spear can attack, and he memorizes his fighting patterns. Hanjun admits that Yoo-hyun isn't any ordinary teller and starts taking the fight more seriously. Yoo-hyun lunges into the air again and swings his spear. Hanjun breaks into laughter when he realizes that Yoo-hyun's spear can't reach him from that distance. He shouts and calls Yoo-hyun an idiot. He claims that he will stab Yoo-hyun to death before his spear can even reach him. The next thing he knows is the feeling of a deep wound in his shoulder. Yoo-hyun's spear has cut into his body and his smile has disappeared. He didn't even get the chance to complete his sentence. Again, out of desperation and confusion, he asks Yoo-hyun how he was able to achieve this when he was sure that the spear wouldn't reach him. Yoo-hyun finally breaks his silence and spree of attacks and responds to his question. He says that he assumes that Hanjun has been trying to avoid his attacks but failed to predict this one. Yoo-hyun presents his spear, and Hanjun understands what just happened. The spear got longer. Yoo-hyun makes a sassy pose with the spear in his hand and a sarcastic smile on his face. Hanjun calls him a cheater like a middle schooler, and Yoo-hyun responds that Hanjun can't call him that because he started things off on higher grounds to get more advantage. Yoo-hyun rolls his eyes and tells Hanjun to blame his skills. Hanjun pulls out the only word in his vocabulary: shut up. He starts running towards him while thinking that all he has to do is get close enough so that Yoo-hyun can't do anything, and then kill him as painfully as possible. Just when the dagger is a few millimeters away from Yoo-hyun, a shield appears in front of his body. That's when Hanjun realizes that Yoo-hyun isn't switching out the weapons, but the weapon is changing its form. While Hanjun is busy with his thoughts, Yoo-hyun turns the weapon into a scythe and puts him in a defensive position again. Hanjun uses both of his daggers to defend and is pushed back by the impact. The divine spirits stand up from the thrill and exclaim that they can't think that a weapon like that exists and he can use them all proficiently in all forms. Some even start wondering if he's a teller. More importantly, where did he get a weapon like that? They think that since Eden and Pandemonium are interested in his library, it must have been a gift from one of them. The devil is still sitting in the audience like a proud father. Other divine spirits start talking about the rumor that Yoo-hyun has had a meeting with Michael and Depp Dark. The devil smiles at the fact that Yoo-hyun sure knows how to get attention. He claims that it is a shame that Yoo-hyun rejected him. Then he starts feeling a little annoyed that people refer to him with such a cringe name, the Deep Dark. While Hanjun is lying on the ground with blood all over his face, Yoo-hyun doesn't show mercy and runs towards him with the intent to kill. He isn't just trying to scare him and takes a swing at him. Hanjun manages to dodge it at the last second. Jinpung becomes disappointed and shouts at Hanjun for running away with his tail between his legs. Hanjun tells Jinpung to shut up and claims that he still has some fight left in him. He believes that he can still take care of the situation. He stops running and catches his breath. He tells Yoo-hyun that he is impressed that he was able to corner him this much, but he has left his guard down far too much. Yoo-hyun is a little confused by the statement, because he has been on guard every second of the fight. Hanjun tells him that he should have ended things when he had the chance. As soon as he says that, curse marks start appearing all over his body, and his physique gets bigger. Argyle chuckles while saying that she didn't expect that he would reveal his traits against an employee-level teller. It looks like Pentagram has been doing some dirty experiments on him, and has artificially enhanced his abilities. Hanjun yells that he won't go easy on Yoo-hyun anymore. He jumps in the air, and the ground under him erupts from the pressure. At the speed of light, he bounces off the buildings, and even Yoo-hyun isn't even able to catch up with him this time. The divine spirits in the audience can't see him either, and wonder how they didn't know about a collector this strong. Hanjun laughs at Yoo-hyun, and says that it is too late to regret things now. Yoo-hyun may be cornered, but his attitude and sassiness are alive as long as he is. He tells Hanjun that he is the one who should be worried about regrets. He holds Hanjun's arm in midair and smashes him into the ground. The latter complains that he is the one who is supposed to be the main character of this stage. Yoo-hyun points his sword at Hanjun and tells him that he lost because of his arrogance. He looks down at him and tells him to take one last look at the victor. Hanjun's scream is cut short as blood splatters on the screen.